Chapter 61. Missing Information. Where did my sister go? The Goblin King's core looked like a flawless ruby, brilliant and alluring. Lin Moyu held it out to Ning Yi. For you, he said. Wow, it's gorgeous. Ning Yi could tell at a glance that this crystal was unusual. The instant she touched it, a warm glow spread through her fingers, driving away the chill in the air. When she tried to sense it, a faint, cool breeze seemed to answer her. Is this the Goblin King's core? She asked, eyes lighting up. Lin Moyu nodded. Ning Yi cradled the ruby-like gem, turning it over with obvious affection. Do you know what it's worth? He didn't. Lin Moyu had first heard of the core during the exchange. Back then, the contract listed a reward of 100,000 gold. Later, Wang Yi had told him it was worth at least 500,000. Even so, Lin Moyu suspected it might be worth more. If it weren't that valuable, the young president of the Dynasty Guild wouldn't have been so eager. After all, even though the drop came from a low-level dungeon, its nightmare difficulty made it the kind of thing not everybody could come away with. Ning Yi was in a good mood as she spoke carefully. This is the core item from the Goblin King's ring, a boss-level jewel. It's worth tens of millions. If you sold it on the market, you'd get around 10 million, she added. 10 million. Lin Moyu blinked. He hadn't expected it to be that valuable. Wang Yi seemed even more off the mark. He guessed it was worth at least 500,000, missing 2 zeros. The Dynasty Exchange was worse, offering only 100,000, a deliberate lowball for anyone who didn't know better. 10 million was astronomical to ordinary people, but to Ning Yi, it was pocket change. She could easily give away intermediate skill scrolls worth tens of millions if she chose to. She liked the Goblin King's crystal nucleus, though, and took it without hesitation. Thank you, she said. Lin Moyu smiled faintly. Just take it, he said. After they'd eaten, Ning Yi led Lin Moyu around to get him acquainted with Xiajing Academy. The academy had two main markets, the Imperial Exchange, where transactions were made in gold coins, and the Shuifu Exchange, run by Xiajing Shuifu, where everything was traded using points. Not everything at Xiajing Academy can be bought through the Imperial Exchange. Beyond the exchange, the academy runs dozens of skill training yards scattered across the campus, and they aren't free to use. Each session costs credits. The Xiajing Library prides itself on rivaling the Imperial Library and holds a vast collection of reference works. Some volumes are open to anyone. Advanced or rare materials, however, require credits to access. In short, credits matter here. Without them, you can cover only the bare necessities. You won't starve, but you can't get very far. Ning Yi's guided introduction helped Lin Moyu get his bearings. He learned where the major buildings and training grounds were, how to register for classes, and how to use the student systems. Then they went to the Academic Affairs Office to finish his final enrollment formalities. Most of the paperwork had already been taken care of by Bai Yuan, so the remaining steps were quick. Because of Bai Yuan's influence, the staff in academic affairs treated Lin Moyu with an unusual courtesy. The clerks were efficient, polite, and clearly eager to be helpful. While he was there, Lin Moyu asked about Lin Mohan. A clerk searched the records and confirmed there had indeed been an enrollment entry under that name. But when she turned it up on the screen, all of the fields were blank. No class assignments, no contact information, no dormitory or status notes. The absence of any usable details felt oddly deliberate, and for the first time since he'd arrived, Lin Moyu sensed that not everything at the academy was as straightforward as it seemed. When he came out of the Academic Affairs Office, worry was plain on Lin Moyu's face. Ning Yi reached out to reassure him. Lin Mohan is family, right? She's my sister, Lin Moyu whispered. He still didn't understand why Lin Mohan's profile came up blank. There was an enrollment record showing she had been admitted to Xiajing Academy, but no other information. That can happen, Ning Yi said. Sometimes a student is sent on a special assignment by the school. Those missions are classified, so the records are locked, and you can't look them up while the assignment is active. Or she may have been placed in one of the academy's affiliated colleges. They look like part of Xiajing on paper, but they operate quite independently. The most famous is Chuangshen Academy. There's also Shenlong Academy, Feitian Academy, and more than a dozen others. If a student is registered through one of those colleges, their main school record can appear blank. So don't worry, there are perfectly normal reasons for missing information. Your sister has probably just enrolled in an academy, Ning Yi said, trying to put him at ease. Lin Moyu felt some of the tension ease from his shoulders. They had finally arrived at Xiaojing Academy, even if they hadn't found Lin Mohan right away. If she was really here, he told himself, she would be findable. She had always been responsible. The last time Lin Mohan had contacted him was 3 months ago. There had been nothing since. Maybe she really had been sent away on a long mission. All right, he said, calmer. Don't worry. Nothing will have happened. Ning Yi smiled, warm as sunlight, and the warmth was contagious. Good. Come on. Let's get started. Thank you, Lin Moyu replied. I'm here to show you the school today, Ning Yi said, but I should warn you, I have a mission later, so I can't stay all afternoon. They spent the next half-day walking through the public areas of the academy. Xiaojing was enormous. The parts visitors could see barely made up 1/10 of the whole campus. Beyond the open courtyards and plazas, the academy was divided into many colleges, each a separate complex with strict access controls. Non-members simply couldn't enter. They stopped in front of one of those colleges, Qianlong Academy, where a small crowd had gathered and people were deep in discussion. Ning Yi slipped inside with Lin Moyu at her side. Yi's back. The moment the tall woman spotted Ning Yi, she hurried straight over. Ning Yi laughed. Sister Taozi, I'll bring her over. The woman turned to Lin Moyu and asked, Is this the person Lord Baishen mentioned? Yes, that's him. Ning Yi steered Sister Taozi forward and made the introductions. This is Lin Moyu, this year's national champion, and Sister Taozi is our captain. Sister Taozi smiled and introduced herself. Hello, I'm Zhang Taotao, level 23 Elf Knight. Lin Moyu replied softly. Lin Moyu, level 17 Necromancer. Chapter 62, A dog bites a man, but a man can't bite a dog. Zhang Taotao's face stayed impassive, but the others in the yard showed visible surprise. Only level 17? What a joke, someone scoffed. Seriously, if you're going to bring someone, don't bring a cat or a dog, another sneered. A man swaggering in with a staff added a proud, condescending tone to the chatter. Ning Yi bristled. Ling Zhen, watch your mouth. Moyu is the country's top scholar. Ling Zhen snorted. Top scholar? He waved a hand dismissively. Compared to us, that title means nothing. Been there, seen those top scholars before. Always a bunch of trash, he added with a sneer. His arrogance set the others in the yard on edge. They straightened and wore expressions of superiority, clearly taking his side. Ning Yi couldn't help herself. Ling Zhen, don't be ridiculous. You sound full of hot air, she shouted. Ling Zhen ignored her retort, lifting his chin with even more swagger. Your name is Lin Moyu, right? He asked, voice cold and mocking. I know Lord Baishen vouched for you, Ling Zhen said coolly, but don't think you can do whatever you want just because of that connection. In the Qianlong team, the only thing that matters is strength. We'll allow one extra person for this trial, you, but keep your mouth shut. Don't make a sound, and for heaven's sake don't drag us down. If you do, I won't hesitate to be the first to put you in your place. Lin Moyu was speechless. He was arrogant, more than she'd ever seen. Xiaxue might be proud as the eldest lady of the Xia family, but this was on another level. Idiot, she blurted before she could stop herself. Ling Zhen's expression hardened. What did you say? His staff suddenly flared with red flame, and a rush of energy rippled outward. Ning Yi stepped between Ling Zhen and Lin Moyu. Ling Zhen, you wouldn't dare. Zhang Taotao moved up beside Ning Yi. Ling Zhen, stop. At the sight of Zhang Taotao, Ling Zhen's aggression cooled. The flames around his staff died down. He gave a short, dismissive bow toward Taotao. All right, Sister Taotao, I'll spare you the scene. Then he shot Lin Moyu a hostile glare, stepped aside, and fell silent. Ling Zhen's resentment toward Lin Moyu was plain to see. Zhang Taotao turned to Lin Moyu and said, We'll depart at 9 tomorrow morning. Meet back here. We won't reveal the details of the trial until then, he added. Lin Moyu nodded. Understood. Come on, let's go buy supplies and get ready, Ning Yi said, pulling Lin Moyu away. As the two left, Zhang Taotao sighed softly. Ling Zhen, I know you have your grievances, but don't let personal feelings interfere with the trial. He was recommended by Lord Baishen, so be careful. Ling Zhen scowled. I can be reasonable, but I'm annoyed. If you're going to lead people, bring someone useful. Do you even know what a necromancer does? Jiang Taotao shook his head. He's the country's top scholar. Being the nation's top scholar may not mean much to us, but there must be something special about being number one, Ling Zhen said with a sneer. Someone beside him cut in. Necromancer's a new class that only showed up this year. They say it's one of a kind. Ling Zhen waved the remark off. A new class crops up every few years, he said. Most of them turn out to be trash. Ning Yi steered Lin Moyu away from the conversation as they walked. Don't bother arguing with him, she warned. He's a lunatic, not worth your time. Lin Moyu replied softly, a dog may bite a man, but a man shouldn't bite a dog. Ning Yi laughed. She hadn't expected that side of him. The two of them headed to the Imperial Exchange. Lin Moyu quickly unloaded everything he'd taken from the Shihai mine instance. He didn't put anything up on consignment. Crafting materials he handed in to the exchange's recycling task, while the weapons and armor he'd found were sold directly to the exchange. Weapons were graded by tier: black iron, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and diamond, with even rarer legendary and mythic MS above those. Bronze was only an entry-level weapon, suitable for professionals between levels 10 and 20, and it wasn't worth much. Most weapons were priced around 10,000 gold apiece. After Lin Moyu emptied his storage and sold everything he didn't need, he ended up with 230,000 gold coins. It wasn't a fortune, but it would cover him for a while. You've got the trial tomorrow, Ning Yi reminded him. You should buy some red and blue potions. She wasn't talking about candy. The red potions were healing vials. The blue ones restored mental energy, what players called mana. Because the healing liquid in the bottle was red, professionals simply called it a red potion. The mana-restoring liquid was blue, so it was called a blue potion. They were the two most commonly used consumables. Item information flashed in Lin Moyu's mind as he listened. Elementary life potion, treats injuries, usable below level 20, 1 hour cooldown. Elementary mental potion, restores mental power, usable below level 20, 1 hour cooldown. Both cost 1,000 gold each. Following Ning Yi's advice, Lin Moyu bought 10 of each, spending 20,000 gold. He then used 200,000 gold to purchase 2 primary skill scrolls. After those purchases, he still had a little change left, but more importantly, he felt better prepared for the trial tomorrow. They only had 10,000 gold coins left. After spending like water, their funds were dwindling fast. Next, they went to the Shuifu exchange and bought communicators for 100 points each. The devices looked like watches and were easy to wear. Practically every student had one. After installing them, they added each other as contacts so they could call at any time. Ning Yi gave a little wave, showing off her pale, porcelain skin. From now on, I can bother you anytime, anywhere, she teased. Lin Moyu watched her, smiling at the way she flitted about like a bright little butterfly. A promotional alert then scrolled across their new communicators. Dragon Boat Festival Reading Sale. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Recharge now. Event period, June 22 to June 24. Chapter 63. New skill, curse system. According to Ning Yi, the other participant in tomorrow's trial was supposed to be Ling Zhen's younger brother. But because Baishan had intervened, that slot was swapped, replaced by Lin Moyu. When Ling Zhen saw him there, he couldn't hide his disgust. Ning Yi didn't know the specifics of the trial, only that it mattered a great deal. There were strict level requirements, not too high, not too low. Everything would be settled tomorrow. Lin Moyu didn't take Ling Zhen seriously. To him, Ling Zhen was nothing more than a clown. He wasn't arrogant about it. He was simply confident. He believed he wouldn't be outmatched by any professional below level 30. Back in the cramped dormitory, Lin Moyu unrolled a primary skill scroll and activated it. The room filled with a blinding light as a sphere of energy enveloped him. After a few minutes, the glow faded. Lin Moyu let out a disappointed sigh. No new skill had appeared. He reminded himself that skill scrolls didn't always unlock new abilities. Sometimes they merely reawakened skills he'd already learned. In short, nothing new had been mastered this time. It was normal. After mastering more skills, the demand for skill scrolls rises. If you want to awaken and learn new techniques, you end up burning through scrolls faster and faster. A primary skill scroll only cost 100,000 gold, so even 100 would be only 10 million, affordable compared with mid-level scrolls, which get expensive in large quantities. Lin Moyu had 2 primary scrolls. The first had failed, so he used the second. Light clustered around him again, wrapping his body. Heat crept through his limbs, and a strange, familiar breath hummed under his skin. He'd felt this before. A small, private thrill flared through him. New skill. Slow Curse, Level 1. Curse enemies within 5 meters, reducing movement speed by 5% for 1 minute. His talents amplified it. The effective range jumped from 5 meters to 100 meters, a 20-fold increase, and the slowing effect was multiplied as well, magnifying it so the curse now significantly impaired targets' movement as well as their attack and action speeds. The slow curse read like every other divine skill, a powerful debuff with a long duration. It sapped an opponent's strength for up to 20 minutes. Lin Moyu frowned and catalogued it mentally, another divine skill added to his list. He divided his abilities into 3 clear systems: summoning, attack, and curse. Curses, he noted, were especially valuable. They didn't just blunt an enemy's power. By crippling foes, they made every engagement far safer, and they effectively boosted his own offensive potential by comparison. No matter which path you take, he thought, they're all strong. Satisfied with his study, he spent mental energy to summon 4 skeleton warriors. Then he uncorked and drank a bottle of primary spirit potion. Mental strength began to climb back noticeably. The potion's effect restored 100 points of mental power over the course of 10 minutes. After that, the potion's effects wore off. Knowing the potion's limits, Lin Moyu settled into meditation. You could only take 1 bottle per hour, and for someone like him with 1,000 points of maximum mental power, a single bottle only covered 1/10 of his total. Relying solely on potions to refill would therefore take 10 hours, hardly any faster than recovering naturally through meditation. Lin Moyu had worked it out. Taking potions during meditation wouldn't help much. Constantly breaking his concentration to drink elixirs would wreck the process. More trouble than it was worth. The pleasant chime from his communicator dragged him back into the present. Ning Yi had set that ringtone. She was the only contact saved in his device. "Get up! The sun's out! You're roasting!" Her voice scolded the moment he answered. "I'm downstairs. Come down and have breakfast with me. I'm leaving after we eat." "All right," he replied. She'd gone a little overboard. "I don't collie now how long this trip will take," she said. "I need to stock up. Otherwise, like last time, Miss Ben almost starved," Ning Yi added. "Good thing I had your sweet potatoes." Lin Moyu chuckled. He didn't care for steamed buns. It was the sweet potatoes that mattered. He followed her quietly to the market and paid for the groceries. It cost 10,000 gold coins to buy enough food for 2 people for a month, but luckily their storage was big enough to hold it. Xiajing Academy burned through money like water. 10,000 gold coins, if you took that amount to Shihai City, would be enough to feed Lin Moyu for years. So it wasn't surprising that everyone showed up prepared. Jiang Taotao and the others from Chanlong Academy were already waiting. Across the plaza, dozens of students had grouped into their own teams. Ning Yi escorted Lin Moyu over to join them. Jiang Taotao glanced at her watch and spoke sharply, "Don't wander off after you teleport." She wasn't new to running trials. It showed in her tone. Ling Zhen fixed Lin Moyu with a cold stare. "Kid," he said, "don't hold anything back." Ning Yi snorted, "We won't." Jiang Taotao rubbed her temple. "Whatever personal grudges or ideas you have, leave them for after the trial. This trial matters, so act like it." She looked around at the group. "Now, everyone state your roles." As captain, she had to get the team to act like a team. Even a superficial truce would do. Anything less, and the whole thing would be worse than forfeiting. Duangao, level 20, Prophet. Miao Yu, level 20, Elf Elder. Both the Prophet and the Elf Elder were support classes, and both were rare. The Prophet boosted a variety of stats. With a high-level Prophet and the right skills, a team's combat effectiveness could easily double. The Elf Elder was the caregiver type, excellent at healing and surprisingly adept at crowd control. Under Jiang Taotao's steady gaze, Ling Zhen swallowed and gave his own introduction reluctantly. "Ling Zhen, Level 21, Warlock. Like the Elemental Mage, the Warlock was a mage archetype, another rare class. Their skills overlapped in places, but differed enough to complement each other. Ning Yi, Level 19, Shadow Assassin. Lin Moyu, Level 17, Necromancer. Jiang Taotao, Level 23, Elf Knight. Jiang Taotao scanned the group once more. I'll say it again, in this trial we must work together. If anyone dares to slack off during the trial, don't blame me for being harsh. Her tone was all business. Even Ling Zhen perked up at the warning. Ning Yi gave a confident smile. Sister Taozi, don't worry, we won't hold the team back. Just then, a huge teleportation array blossomed in the air, glowing and humming with power. Qianlong Academy commenced the teleportation trial. The Dragon Boat Festival promotional line appeared to be an advertisement and was omitted. If you have the rest of the chapter, please paste it and I'll revise it into fluent, idiomatic English. Chapter 64, Trial Task, Tears of the Mermaid. A massive shadow loomed overhead, a colossal tower that seemed to pierce the sky. It's God Xiata, Ning Yi breathed. Lin Moyu felt a jolt of shock. Since he'd entered Xiajing Academy, he'd never actually seen God Xiata in person, and now the deity's tower hovered above them. A spire of light shot from the tower and engulfed Qianlong Academy. In an instant, every student was swept up and sent to the trial site. The teleportation lasted more than 10 seconds, long enough to tell them the destination was far from Xiajing Academy. A roar like surf filled their ears. Shihai City sat on the coast, and Lin Moyu knew the sound of the waves too well to mistake it. The trial was by the sea. Their feet touched solid ground, and the world snapped back into focus. Sunlight blazed down. For a beat, Lin Moyu felt as if he'd been returned to the familiar shoreline of Shihai. Ning Yi's face had gone pale, and she clutched Lin Moyu's arm so tightly her small fingers bit into his sleeve. Jiang Taotao pouts, her face full of displeasure. I'm dizzy. Long-distance teleportation is really uncomfortable. Teleport a few times and you'll get used to it, she adds, shrugging. It's like that from the start. She glances at Lin Moyu with a little surprise. He shows no sign of discomfort. Could he be used to teleportation? The thought crosses her mind, and whatever contempt she'd felt toward him eases considerably. Lin Moyu takes in their surroundings. They're on an island. Not far behind them, the coastline stretches into a sandy beach that measures about 557 paces, waves rolling in rhythmically. A shimmering light curtain encloses most of the island, like a dome of faint energy. They stand outside it, and through the curtain they can make out many monsters moving around inside. A glowing stone floats in front of them, pulsing softly. A mission stone, Jiang Taotao says from experience, and reaches out to accept her task. Lin Moyu mirrors her, taking the floating stone in his own hand. The moment he touches it, the details of the trial task become clear. The island we were heading for was called Mermaid Island. It teemed with sea monsters. At its center lay the Mermaid Dungeon, an instanced area where the coveted mermaid tears could be obtained. Our trial was simple on paper. Land on Mermaid Island, fight our way to the center, clear the dungeon, and kill the final boss to claim the mermaid tears. There were 3 crucial rules for the trial. First, the team's average level had to be at least 20. That was an average rating for the entire party, not a minimum for each member, and teams were limited to 6 people. Because knights and other frontline roles tend to be higher level, parties often had to bring a lower-level member to keep the average down, an arrangement that could cause friction. In our case, Lin Moyu had taken the spot that Ling Zhen had wanted for his younger brother, and Ling Zhen was still smarting from that. Second, mermaid tears only drop if the dungeon was run on nightmare difficulty. That meant the team had to be strong enough overall to handle the tougher enemies. A weak party wouldn't survive long enough to reach the boss. Third, only 3 mermaid tears could drop in total. That scarcity made the run competitive and raised the stakes for everyone involved. Only the top 3 teams that clear the dungeon get mermaid tears, Jiang Taotao said after she finished reading the mission briefing. Lin Moyu frowned. Why keep it such a secret? After all, it's just an instance. Jiang Taotao's expression was serious. She'd gone through plenty of trials and tasks before. She knew more about these things than they did. Don't be so casual about it. This trial is for the mermaid tears. She continued, explaining the situation. The mermaid dungeon only drops 3 mermaid tears each year. The tears are used to craft a very special kind of equipment, extremely valuable, and Mermaid Island isn't even in Shangxia Empire territory. That means other countries come here every year. Ooh, Lin Moyu said, piecing it together. Exactly. Jiang Taotao nodded. Qianlong Academy sent a full contingent this time. There are 10 teams total, and we're Team 2. We'll be competing not just against our fellow students, but against professionals from other nations as well. Ning Yi swallowed and asked, so what do we do now? If we face them, are we expected to kill them? She glanced, almost without thinking, at Lin Moyu. He had actually killed people before, and the question made several members of the group visibly nervous. Lin Moyu, however, showed no change. Jiang Taotao shook her head. Usually not. This kind of thing's happened before. They just guard the dungeon entrance and keep people out. They hardly ever kill intruders. A wave of relief swept through the team at that, but Jiang's expression stayed serious. Don't get too complacent, though. There have been fatalities in the past. All right, she added. We're going into Fish Island. All right, buff yourselves. Duan Gao called, then began casting. A soft halo of light washed over everyone in an instant. Strength surged, agility sharpened, defenses hardened, and morale lifted. Lin Moyu felt the enhancement settle over him. His strength, agility, constitution, and spirit all rose by 30%, and his mage skill power increased by 20%. The effects would last for an hour. Under the Prophet's blessing, everyone's combat power had risen dramatically. The Prophet really was a powerful support class, especially in hard dungeons. With a Prophet in the party, a team's effectiveness could be multiplied many times over. Still, even those impressive buffs were nothing compared to Lin Moyu's god-level talent. If I cast the Prophet's blessing on a skeleton warrior, what would happen? Lin Moyu wondered. The thought was barely formed when a skeleton warrior materialized at his side. A chill gust sprang up out of nowhere, and the air dropped several degrees. The sudden apparition made several people jump. The skeleton was wrapped in a dark haze, blue soul fire flickering over its bones, a sword that glowed with a cold light clutched in its hand. Every now and then the blade sent out a high, cutting scrape that set teeth on edge. Duan Gao, who had been buffing everyone, was so startled his hands began to shake and his skills faltered. Miao Yu screamed and ducked behind Jiang Taotao. Undead summoner, Duan Gao announced flatly. Jiang Taotao flinched. Lin Moyu, is that your summon? Lin Moyu glanced at Duan Gao. Give it a buff too, please. Okay. Duan Gao froze for a split second, then shook himself and went back to adding status effects for everyone. The beach was bathed in a steady, shimmering light as each team received its blessing. Lin Moyu looked around. Almost every person here belonged to a rare class. Roles you hardly ever saw in the city were flowering on this shore. He already understood what Baishan had meant by the insiders of Xiajing Academy. These were players who'd shown talent early, grown up, and trained at the academy, and even changed professions there. They were professionals forged by Xiajing, with the best education and resources, far beyond the usual city specialists. For example, Ning Yi, Lin's peer, was already level 19 and more knowledgeable than Lin in many ways. Jiang Taotao was only a year older than the two of them and had reached level 23. Huh? Duan Gao stared in surprise. I can't bless it with my skill. The halo of status vanished the moment it appeared over the skeleton warrior. He tried again and again, to no avail. Lin Moyu didn't look surprised. Perhaps her talent was simply too strong. Low-level abilities like Duan Gao's were being smothered by her innate power. You can't even bless your status? Pathetic. Ling Zhen snorted, his voice thick with disdain. Lin Moyu met him with a cold stare. After a few more barbed comments, even someone as composed as she could be provoked. The skeleton warrior's eye sockets flared red. It turned its head toward Ling Zhen. Spirit fire beat, ing within it, and a sharp wind beginning to whirl around. Ling Zhen visibly trembled and took an involuntary step back. His staff suddenly burst into flames. Jiang Taotao reacted instantly, stepping between them. If you want to fight, you have to finish the trial first. Lin Moyu gave a small, curt nod and turned her gaze away. Ling Zhen sucked in a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. When the skeleton had looked at him before, he'd actually felt his life threatened. With a distant roar, the trial began. Jiang Taotao didn't hesitate. "Enter the island," he said. The group assembled, and the shimmering veil treated them as a single unit. Their average rating was exactly 20, just what the rules required. One instant they were standing outside, the next a cool sheet of water washed over them, and they stepped onto Mermaid Island. Chapter 65, The Last Time. The island air was thick with moisture. Every breath tasted of fish. The humidity clung to their clothes and skin, making everyone feel damp and uneasy. Ning Yi covered her nose. She hated the smell. "This place is awful, so smelly and fishy," she muttered. A lone peak rose from the center of the island, impossible to miss. Hung above it, the mermaid copy glowed like a strange floating construct. From a distance, a vast waterfall seemed to arc up from the mountain toward it, and at the summit, the entrance to the mermaid copy turned like an underwater vortex, endlessly spinning. Jiang Taotao looked to the peak to get their bearings. The interior of the island was larger than they'd expected. After passing through the water curtain, their group had been scattered. The dense crowd they'd been part of earlier was nowhere in sight. "Move quickly. Our target is the mermaid copy," Jiang Taotao said in a low voice. "If you can't take a monster down, don't engage it." She sprinted forward, and several people immediately followed. Water pooled everywhere, and pale shapes flashed beneath the surface. The creatures in the pools were half human, half fish, scaled bodies, more brutish than the beautiful mermaids of legend. Their exposed fangs were razor-sharp, catching the sunlight. There was no doubt those teeth could bite through steel. A narrow channel ran between the pools, and the team threaded through it in single file. The water hissed and sloshed around them when, without warning, a mermaid monster exploded out of a pool and hurtled toward them. Jiang Taotao reacted instantly and activated her skill. "Taunt!" she shouted, her signature knight ability. The creature seemed offended, as if the provocation had drawn its ire. It spun and charged straight for Jiang Taotao, red glints in its eyes, moving with a berserk frenzy. At the same time, Lin Moyu's detection ability scanned the attacker. Mermaid Soldier level 19 power, 300 agility 150, spirit 200, physique 320, skills none. The readout confirmed it, a standard level 19 enemy, no special skills, not particularly powerful. Wild monsters like this posed no real threat. Charge! Jiang Taotao didn't wait for the mermaid to reach her. She lifted her shield and lunged. Using her charge skill, she closed more than 10 meters in an instant and slammed into the creature. The impact sent the mermaid soldier skidding several meters before it collapsed to the sand. A fireball streaked out and struck it squarely, engulfing the mermaid in flames. It didn't go down immediately, though. After a few desperate thrashes, it lunged back toward Jiang Taotao. A flicker of motion behind the beast announced Ning Yi's arrival. Her dagger flashed, the fatal blow skill activated, and the blade slid into the mermaid's scale-covered chest. The scales cracked, and the creature let out a howl as it crumpled to the ground. Before it could recover, an ice arrow flew from the backline and slammed into the corpse. Frost spread over its body, freezing it solid and stopping any final movement. System killed level 19 Mermaid Soldier. Experience 1500. Jiang Taotao receives Fish Scale X1. Lin Moyu also got the in-game notification that the mermaid had been killed. Because they were in a 6-person party, the experience awarded was relatively small. As the party captain, Jiang Taotao took all the loot, standard procedure, and Lin Moyu didn't mind. This was a trial run, not a leveling grind. After they quickly finished off the mermaid creature, the team pushed onward. They ran into wave after wave of enemies. The closer they got to the mountain, the thicker and tougher the opposition became. By the rear of the group, level 21 monsters were already appearing, and those would take some effort to bring down. After dispatching one of the level 21s, Jiang Taotao glanced up at the mountain. "At this pace, it'll take us at least 3 hours to reach the center of the island," she said. "Climbing will slow us down," someone pointed out. "We're moving too slowly," another agreed. Jiang frowned. "From now on, avoid fights when you can. Miao Yu, you handle crowd control. If we can't take them quickly, don't engage. Let me know and we'll bypass them." Miao Yu nodded. "Got it." They increased their pace. When the next group of monsters appeared, Miao Yu stepped forward and cast a control spell. Wind Bind. A ribbon of wind coiled out from her hands, wrapping the nearest beast like invisible shackles and holding it rigid while the team slipped past. The effect lasted only a minute, but that was enough. Every time they vanished for a minute, the team's pace leapt forward. In this way, their progress sped up dramatically. After 20 minutes, they could already see the foot of the mountain ahead. As Zhang Taotao had predicted, they were behind. Other teams had reached the base long before them. A waterfall thundered down from the peak, and only a single narrow path climbed the slope. There was no room to spread out. Celestial mermaids crowded both in the curtain of water and along the path. At the mountain's base, the torrent had carved a series of closely spaced pools that linked into a winding approach. Mermaids lurked in every one, making it nearly impossible to bypass them. One team had just arrived at the base and was busy clearing the monsters, preparing to ascend. Jiang Taotao gritted her teeth. If we just charge straight through, are you sure that's our best option? Miao Yu shook her head. No, there are too many of them. I can't control them all. And they're level 22, she added. Higher than me. My crowd control skills might just fail. The problem was clear. When a monster's level exceeded hers, her control spells could misfire. She'd already had a few failures on the way here, but then it had been with single enemies. If a control effect failed, they could finish it off quickly. This time the monsters were packed together like a military camp, dozens of them. If they tried to clear the path properly, it would take at least an hour, and they'd fall hopelessly behind. If they rushed without Miao Yu's control, they were likely to be overwhelmed, surrounded by mermaid-like creatures, and the whole team would be in danger. Zhang Taotao stared at the tangle of enemies ahead, caught in a dilemma. Then Lin Moyu looked up along the route he'd found and said quietly, "Let me try." Ling Zhen snorted before he could stop himself. You? What can a level 17 do? Lin Moyu had kept mostly to himself on the journey, never showing what he could do. He'd simply followed the group. Except for Ning Yi, no one really knew the extent of his abilities. Ning Yi snorted. Ling, shut up. Save the chatter for later. Zhang Taotao shot Ling Zhen a warning glare to keep him quiet, then turned to Lin Moyu. What do you plan to do? Lin Moyu replied, I'll use the skeleton warrior to draw the merfolk away. Zhang Taotao's eyes lit up. She'd almost forgotten that Lin Moyu was a necromancer. She didn't know the details of his class or skills, only that he could summon creatures. Using a summoned unit as bait to lure the merfolk made perfect sense. She also noticed that among the teams who had rushed down to the foot of the mountain, several had summoners too, likely for the same reason. Okay, it's your call, she said. The rest of you, get ready. While he distracts the monster, we'll go to the doctor. Lin Moyu's expression shifted, and with a clatter like dry bones, the skeleton warrior sprang to life and charged forward. It was startlingly fast. Zhang Taotao's eyes narrowed. The speed of the summoned skeleton far exceeded what she'd expected. In the blink of an eye, the skeleton warrior had already sprinted tens of meters ahead and materialized in front of a cluster of mermaid monsters. The mermaids screamed and surged toward the skeleton, but it ignored them and ran on. It darted from one pool to the next, dragging mermaids out of the water as it passed, then sprinting to another pool and doing the same. Before long, more than a dozen mermaids trailed after the skeleton, and it kept luring them farther and farther away until the tunnel ahead was cleared. Zhang Taotao breathed out a low, urgent command. Move. The team moved quickly, following the path the skeleton had opened. The summoned skeleton ran ahead like a living bait, pulling monsters away from their hiding places so the group could pass. In only a few minutes, they reached the foot of the mountain, with over 100 mermaids now following in the skeleton's wake. At Lin Moyu's command, the skeleton continued to run on a little farther. Then, suddenly, it vanished. Lin Moyu had recalled it back into her summoning space. The mermaid monsters, stripped of their target, froze and looked around in bafflement. Zhang Taotao let out a long, relieved sigh. Good job. Ning Yi giggled. That was amazing. Duan Gao and Miao Yu glanced at Lin Moyu with new respect. It was because of him that they'd made progress. Ling Zhen's voice cut through the praise, cool and sharp. Why didn't you do that from the start? We would have been at the mountain already. Lin Moyu turned and looked at him with a blank, almost incredulous expression. Aren't mages supposed to be clever? Why did Ling Zhen seem a little foolish? Ning Yi snorted. Ling Zhen, zip it. Don't brag where you can't back it up. Lin Moyu's tone was cold. One more time. Ling Zhen sneered. So it just comes down to summoning things, huh? Before he could go on, Zhang Taotao cut him off. Enough. Shut up. Ling Zhen kept picking at Lin Moyu, even though Lin rarely spoke, and it was always Ling who started trouble. Everyone in the group knew who the real problem was. A sudden scream split the air from the top of the mountain. Heads snapped up. A horde of mermaid-like monsters was tumbling down the slope, and the teams that had gone up earlier were already scrambling back down in retreat. Chapter 66. Either he goes or I go. Fall back! Zhang Taotao's face drained of color. The team broke off immediately, retreating from the foot of the mountain. From the peak, hundreds of mermaid monsters poured down in a rolling tide, cutting off the path upward. Someone's deliberately drawing them here, Lin Moyu said, scanning the stream of creatures. He squinted and spotted a lone figure running in front of the swarm, clearly the bait. The man's clothes were unlike any uniform from Xiajing Academy or the Shenxia Empire. Zhang Taotao's eyes narrowed. He's from Sakura country. And on Myoji, probably, Ning Yi added. They wear that cherry blossom pattern. Lin Moyu had never heard of Onmyoji before. Ning's voice dropped to a low, careful tone. They're supposed to be disreputable. They use a lot of spirit tricks, Zhang Taotao said. You can't trust those kinds of methods. The man ahead, his robe embroidered with tiny cherry blossoms, didn't slow. He pulled 2 paper talismans from his sash, one in each hand, and flung them into the air. The seals flared, detonating mid-flight. In the burst of light and smoke, 2 enormous phantoms coalesced overhead, towering shapes of spirit energy looming above the narrow pass. The moment the apparition appeared, it dropped from the sky and slammed down at the foot of the mountain. Like a giant skeleton warrior, it drew every monster in the pool toward it. The retreating students from Qianlong Academy were quickly surrounded. They unleashed their abilities again and again, desperate to break free, but there were too many monsters. Most of them couldn't force their way through the crushing formation, the so-called 853. When it became clear a breakout was impossible, faint white light flashed from each student's pendant, and they teleported away. Everyone had been given a mission stone before entering the island. It doubles as an emergency teleport device. It could get them out of danger, but using it meant admitting failure in the trial. Ning Yi studied the apparition and said, "That's an Onmyoji Shikigami technique. They say it can even summon ancient gods." Miao Yu whispered, "Why would he do that?" Zhang Taotao answered, "To stop us from climbing the mountain." When he spoke, the scene made the point for him. The foot of the mountain swarmed with monsters, at least 200, and over 100 more lined the mountain path. More than 300 monsters blocked the path up the mountain. Clearing them all would take at least a few hours. An Onmyoji sat astride a Shikigami, hovering above the melee, laughing as if the whole thing were a joke. "You all stay put," he called down. "This dungeon belongs to my great cherry blossom kingdom." With that, he waved, and in a blink the Shikigami carried him away. "He's an Onmyoji, legendary class. Sakura Kingdom must have thrown a fortune at that player," someone muttered. "If we spend hours cleaning out these monsters, any chance at the dungeon will be gone," another said. "When we finally clear them, the prize will be cold." The squad was falling apart. Players were arguing, people were quitting the trial and logging out. "It's okay," one leader tried to reassure them. "We'll regroup at the dungeon." "That's the problem. How do we get there?" someone asked. "Why doesn't someone make a sacrifice and pull them off the path?" a voice suggested. "Are you crazy? You think we want to be the sacrifice?" another snapped. "This isn't a job for casual players. Pulling monsters is dangerous." "It's not a dozen or two. It's hundreds," someone added. "There's no tank big enough here to hold that kind of aggro." "Call the summoner," someone else offered hopefully. "You're joking, right? Summoners are great at managing a few packs, but hundreds of monsters? No way. Even they can't handle that." Zhang Taotao eyed Lin Moyu. "Will that work?" Lin Moyu gave a short nod. A skeleton warrior leapt forward as if on command. "Huh, skeletons? Undead summons? Whose summon is that? What does it do?" "It's draw. Wing the mobs. Look how fast it moves." The skeletal figure immediately drew the attention of the nearby creatures. A scream went up as a wave of mermaid monsters swarmed after it, and within moments, a full third of the enemies had broken off and followed the summon. Zhang Taotao let out a small, rueful sigh. Too bad there are still so many. Click, click, another skeleton charged out. 2. Zhang Taotao's eyes brightened. She hadn't expected Lin Moyu to be able to summon a second one. Hope flickered across her face. The second skeleton did the same, yanking another cluster of monsters away. The base of the mountain was almost cleared. Now only the foes along the mountain trail remained. Even those would be picked off far faster than before. Nice work. Brilliant. Brother Nu, when this trial's over, drinks are on me. And the next dungeon run, I'll take you with me. One after another, the players praised Lin Moyu. Ningyi grinned brightly. Lin Moyu, by contrast, looked sour. Only Ling Zhen's face was positively livid, as if he'd swallowed something foul. Then a third skeleton appeared. There's actually a third one, someone breathed, and it's stable this time, another replied, excitement rippling through the group. Get ready to head up the mountain, Lin Moyu said quietly. Zhang Taotao was already poised to move. The new skeleton charged up the slope, drawing the pack of monsters ahead of it along the mountain road. Zhang Taotao used the distraction and bolted for the ascent, and the rest of the teams followed suit without hesitation. Lin Moyu could have wiped the monsters out in an instant with his corpse explosion, but he held back. Ling Zhen was here, and if he used that skill while they were grouped, the experience would be split. Ling Zhen had been pushing his buttons all day. Lin Moyu might be even-tempered, but he wasn't foolish enough to keep letting him freeload. If this had happened anywhere else, Ling Zhen might already be dead. Within minutes, they reached the summit of the several hundred-meter mountain. He spotted the dungeon entrance. At the far side of the mountain, a group of people had just come charging up the slope. Enter the dungeon. Don't let them get in first. Voices from Qianlong Academy rang out. Zhang Taotao pushed forward toward the entrance without hesitation. The onmyoji, who had been perched on his shikigami, suspended in midair, stared at them in disbelief. He had deliberately pulled a swarm of monsters onto the path to slow anyone who tried to climb the mountain. Cleaning up that blockage would take hours. By the time it was cleared, the Sakura team should have already finished the dungeon and left. Yet here was Qianlong Academy, cresting the mountain far faster than he had expected. How did they get here? He muttered. Can they fly too? Both parties reached the summit together. They exchanged quick glances and then surged for the dungeon entrance at the same time. Whiz! The sound of arrows filled the air as razor-sharp volleys burst overhead and began to fall like rain. Watch out! Archer volleys! Someone shouted. Sakura Country's archers struck first, unleashing their abilities. The mage raised a shimmering shield, and the knight triggered defensive skills, bracing for the oncoming storm of arrows. Two skeletons materialized between Lin Moyu and Ning Yi, shielding them both. A voice barked, "If they try anything, go for him." Someone else growled, "Hit him hard, don't hold back." On the other side, the archers from Qianlong Academy flicked on their skills in unison. Arrows sliced across the field, spells detonated erratically. Despite being mid-level professionals around level 20, their techniques were sharp and effective. A healer stayed at the rear, keeping everyone patched up, while support staff hustled to restore status and mana. Beams of healing light shot into the sky. Knights surged in as well, charging and clashing in the melee. There'd been no time to prepare a proper formation. The fight devolved into chaotic, close-quarters brawling. Neither side could gain a decisive advantage. Lin Moyu judged that the Shenxia Empire should be stronger overall. The Qianlong Academy fighters were among the elite of the professional ranks, well-trained and well-equipped. The warriors who'd come from the Sakura Kingdom were clearly top-tier too, but they still didn't quite match the caliber of the Shenxia forces. The only problem was that the onmyoji had pulled the monsters, leaving the Shenxia Empire team incomplete and their combat effectiveness greatly reduced. That made the whole fight tense and the outcome uncertain. Both sides pressed the attack, striving for control of the instance, but neither managed to claim it. The mage's mental energy was drained, so he began downing spirit potions, and the archers' and knights' abilities had all gone on cooldown. The clash lost its ferocity. Gradually both sides fell back, and a truce was formed. Lin Moyu hadn't fired a single shot. His skills were too devastating. He worried that if the skeleton warriors surged forward and cut loose, they would slaughter the enemy. Then another corpse suddenly detonated, and it became clear there wouldn't be many left alive on the other side. Zhang Taotao pointed out that, despite the long, fierce bout, there were very few fatalities. Most of the damage had been minor. Under the nurse's treatment, the wounds healed quickly, and nothing was life-threatening. The first clash had ended in a stalemate. Both sides were on edge, watching each other closely. Nobody wanted to let their guard down. The dungeon mouth lay straight ahead, and the prize inside, the mermaid's tears, was something neither side intended to leave behind. "Our team's a mess. We need to reorganize," someone announced. "If we can get organized, we can crush them," another agreed. People were drifting down to the foot of the mountain to reshuffle. The current lineup was chaotic, and it would be hard to fight effectively that way. Voices traded quick, practical demands. "We're short on ranged damage. Need a mage or an archer. One only. Make sure they fit the dungeon's level restrictions. We don't have a healer. Need a healer under level 21. Any mage will do, as long as they're below level 23. There were a lot of teams missing damage dealers. The other recurring problem was a lack of healers. During the earlier skirmish, several mages had fallen back, and strict level rules complicated recruitment. For this mermaid dungeon, the group average couldn't exceed level 20, so everyone had to be careful who they invited. Ling Zhen stepped forward. "Captain, I'm going to join another team." "Why?" Zhang Taotao sounded surprised. She hadn't expected Ling Zhen to say that. Ling Zhen jabbed a finger at Lin Moyu. "Either he goes, or I do." Zhang Taotao froze, and Duan Gao and Miao Yu looked equally stunned. No one had expected Ling Zhen to use that as a threat, and they'd only just reached the dungeon gate. Duan Gao's voice went low. "Ling Zhen, you're going too far." "If Lin Moyu hadn't drawn that monster's attention back there," Miao Yu added, "none of us would have even been able to stand." Ling Zhen didn't seem to care. "That's his problem. I don't mind either way. I'm just making it simple. Either he goes in, or I walk." Ning Yi snorted from her perch in the clouds. "Ling Zhen, you're such a dog," she said, amused. Then, with a shrug that left the choice hanging in the air, she added, "Fine, decide." Chapter 67. Never mind the rank, just keep up. Zhang Taotao glanced first at Lin Moyu, then at Ling Zhen, her expression full of contempt. She knew exactly what Ling Zhen had been doing, swooping in when every team was desperate for mages. Without a strong damage dealer, a nightmare run was basically a lost cause. Trials couldn't be completed. Every party in the server was hunting for mages, and Ling Zhen's reputation made him a hot commodity. That was why he picked this moment to make his move, and why Zhang Taotao found his timing so aggravating. She was caught in a bind. If they kicked Lin Moyu, the team's average level would rise, and it would be easier to succeed. Finding some low-level filler would be no problem, much easier than finding a reliable mage. But Lin Moyu was already in the group, and losing a teammate could cost them more than the numbers suggested. Ning Yi opened her mouth to protest, but Lin Moyu's hand gently squeezed her wrist, an unmistakable signal not to speak. Ning's face said it all. If Zhang Taotao asked Lin Moyu to leave, Ning would go too. Lin Moyu didn't argue or try to influence the choice. She simply watched, calm and resigned, leaving the decision entirely in Zhang Tao's hands. After a moment of inward debate, Zhang Taotao made up her mind. Her eyes found Ling Zhen. "Ling Zhen," she said coolly, "you should withdraw from the group." Ling Zhen had been brimming with confidence a second ago, sure that Zhang Taotao would welcome him. The answer knocked him off balance, unexpected, emphatic, and final. "What?" He thought he must have heard wrong. "Captain," Ling Zhen said coldly, "if I quit the party, your trial will be cancelled." "Don't you want to enter Dungeon 2, the seminary?" he added, making his point plain. Zhang Taotao's voice dropped. "Of course I want to enter, but you're forgetting my class. I'm an elf knight. Knights have their own code." He glanced at Lin Moyu. "And besides, Lin Moyu is here. If she leaves the team now, she can't do it alone." Ling Zhen gave a derisive sneer. "Fine, don't say I didn't warn you," he said, and he left the party. Mages were in short supply. He could find another team without much trouble. Lin Moyu stood up slowly. "Let's go into the instance," she said. Jiang Taotao froze. It wasn't that Lin Moyu didn't understand the situation. Both sides had paused, and nobody was allowed to approach the entrance to the dungeon. Still, she rose, and Ning Yi jumped up right behind her, giggling. "Sister Taozi, let's go into the dungeon," she chirped. "What?" Jiang Taotao asked. Lin Moyu walked straight to the instance and called over her shoulder, "Follow me." Ning Yi bounced along at her heels, full of blind confidence in Lin Moyu. If Lin Moyu could go in, then maybe they could too. Duan Gao and Miao Yu hesitated, unsure what to do. Jiang Taotao told herself that returning it was important. With her there, at least they wouldn't be killed. The other side wouldn't dare. She stepped forward and said, "Move." As captain, her command carried weight. Duan Gao and Miao Yu fell in beside her. In 2 quick strides, Jiang Taotao closed the distance to Lin Moyu, clutching the shield so tightly her hands trembled. The 5 of them advancing toward the dungeon instantly triggered a reaction from the people of Sakura country. "Go back! Don't come any closer," the Sakura guards shouted, arrows knocked and staves raised. "Shenxia people, fall back now!" The archers drew, and the polearms were leveled. Anyone who dared approach the dungeon would be struck down. Lin Moyu ignored the warnings and kept walking toward the entrance. Jiang Taotao felt her heart surge into her throat. Duan Gao and Miao were every bit as tense. Only Ning Yi seemed calm, patting their shoulders. "Don't be nervous. It'll be okay." "Brother, what are you going to do?" a voice called anxiously from behind them. "Come back now. Something's going to happen." "Let us go too. We'll protect the brothers." Other worried shouts rose from their side as the standoff tightened. Everyone, here, knew Lin Moyu. If it hadn't been for the skeleton he'd summoned earlier, none of them would still be standing. They didn't know what he planned to do next, but most of them instinctively moved to protect him. Ling Zhen sneered, "Idiot, are you looking for death?" When Lin Moyu ignored the warning, the Sakura forces unleashed their skills. Arrows, spells, and every kind of attack poured in. Jiang Taotao immediately hefted his shield, bracing for impact. Lin Moyu only gave a slight point forward. With a whisper of motion, 20 skeletal warriors materialized at his side. They locked into formation, a rigid wall of bone that shielded the 5 of them and absorbed the full force of the assault. Everyone froze. "So many," someone blurted. What class summons that many?" "They're not even showing damage. They're like tanks." "They look flimsy, but they're insanely strong." The skeletons took the hits without flinching, allowing arrows and spells to strike them again and again. A terse notification cut through the noise. Instance entered. Nightmare difficulty. Lin Moyu remained perfectly calm, impervious to the barrage from the Sakura side. That calm rubbed off on Jiang Taotao. Instinctively, he chose to trust him. They chose the dungeon instance the way Lin Moyu suggested. The 5 of them vanished through the entrance, the skeletal warrior slipping in with them. They went in. A 5-player instance. It's probably nightmare difficulty. Don't be ridiculous. It has to be nightmare. No way it's normal. Whether they can clear it or not is another story. Either way, the trash from Sakura country shouldn't be allowed into the dungeon, someone spat. You can't let them in. As soon as Lin Moyu stepped inside, the 2 sides outside the instance snapped back to their duel. Nobody else wanted to follow them in. Inside the mermaid dungeon, Jiang Taotao finally let out a breath she'd been holding. "He actually came in," she said. Ning Yi chuckled. "I told you. Trust Lin Moyu. Don't worry." Jiang Taotao's expression turned serious. "Even if we made it in, our damage output is almost non-existent. Ning Yi is an assassin, but she's only level 19, so her DPS isn't enough. And as a knight, if I focus on survivability, my damage is weak too. They could probably manage normal, but Nightmare is going to be brutal." Jiang Taotao frowned. "But he's only level 17. Ning Yi smiled. "Don't worry, his skeleton is very powerful." Powerful indeed. It was incredibly sturdy and surprisingly fast. So far, that's all I had to go on, but I had to trust her judgment. "All right," Jiang Taotao said. "I hope the skeleton's damage is enough. I'll try to hold the monsters back as much as I can. Miao Yu, heal me when I need it and help control the field." Miao Yu patted her small chest confidently. "Don't worry, Sister Taozi." Duan Gao began to power up, but Lin Moyu had already moved forward. The skeletons couldn't receive buffs, so there was no point wasting time buffing them. They had to act now. A monster soon appeared on the only path ahead. A mermaid over 2 meters tall, blocking their way. A detection readout popped up in the air. Mermaid Elite Warrior. Enhanced Elite Monsters from 37. Level 21. Power 2000. Agility 1200. Intelligence 800. Physique 2200. Skill Scream. At a thought from their controller, the skeleton warriors surged forward. The handful of skeletons in front lunged in unison and unleashed a coordinated berserk strike. With a series of heavy impacts, the elite mermaid fighter crumpled to the ground, screaming. Kill a level 21 mermaid elite fighter. Experience. Obtain fish skin 10. Duan Gao, still riding the temporary buff, froze at the sudden notification. How did he just get that much experience? He glanced at the others. Zhang Taotao's eyes were wide as she stared at Lin Moyu in disbelief. That mermaid had been an enhanced elite in the Nightmare Dungeon. Even with perfect gear, one normally needed a minute or two to bring a monster like that down. But what had just happened? A few skeletons rose, struck a handful of blows, and the creature collapsed, dead almost instantly. Lin Moyu's summoned skeletons weren't just durable, they were blindingly fast and hit with terrifying power. Was that a one-shot? Zhang Taotao murmured. It was basically a spike, Duan Gao said, stunned. Ning Yi shrugged as if it were obvious. Told you, the silent skeletons are ridiculously strong. She fell into step and started moving again. Duan Gao panted after her. Wait, my status bonuses haven't been applied yet. Forget the status, Ning Yi snapped over her shoulder. Just keep up. Zhang Taotao didn't hesitate. She shouted and sprinted to catch up. Chapter 68. Push all the way and cover your ears. 20 skeleton warriors surged forward. It didn't matter what kind of enhanced or elite monster stood in their path. Once the minions advanced, they tore through everything. Basically, no monster lasted more than 5 seconds. This dungeon wasn't particularly strange. Monsters inside were scattered and scarce. Experience gain was slow if you picked them off one by one. It was far more efficient to pull a pack and clear them in one go. He didn't summon any more skeletons. Adding more wouldn't have improved efficiency. Zhang Taotao had never realized running dungeons could be so easy. Usually she was the one who got exhausted. A knight has to stand up front, track every attack, hold aggro, and protect the team. Now she could simply follow behind without lifting a finger. Necromancer is a pretty strong class, she thought. Duan Gao and Miao Yu beside her shared the same impression. After they entered, the passage wound on like a cave tunnel. The dungeon air was heavier than outside, humid and thick with a fishy, rotten stench. Ning Yi had been holding her nose since they entered. After following the corridor for a while, they came to its end and stepped down into a vast cavern. The chamber was dotted with more than 50 jagged stalagmites. In the center, a colossal python lay coiled like a living fortress. The snake must have been at least 30 meters long and more than a meter across. Its pitch-black scales plated its body like armor and gleamed with a metallic sheen. The arrival of Lin Moyu and the others drew its attention. A pair of enormous eyes swung toward them, and it was obvious that anyone who jumped down would be met with a devastating attack. Lin Moyu's detection skill flared to life and revealed the creature's details. Mermaid Queen's pet snake, level 23 power, 3600, agility 5500, spirit 3000, physique 5000, skills, slash, death coil, venom. The name was almost ridiculous, the Mermaid Queen's pet snake, but the beast itself was terrifying. It was the strongest monster Lin Moyu had ever seen, its stats far surpassing even the dreaded Goblin King. The giant python closed in on the skeleton warriors with alarming speed. In fact, it was more agile than they were. Zhang Taotao didn't hesitate. I'll blame you, she snapped. Lin Moyu only shook his head. He didn't summon any more skeletons. In his opinion, 20 should be more than enough. None of them moved to intervene before the python struck. The skeleton warriors leapt one after another and swarmed the serpent, but the python replied with surprising dexterity. It shot into the air and slammed several skeletons aside. Skill, slap. With a twitch of its tail, it swept more of them off balance. In the first exchange, half of the 20 were sent tumbling through the cavern. The remaining skeletons failed to get a solid grip. The python slid through the cave like a swimming beast, its massive tail lashing and scattering attackers as it went. The skeletons managed only a few glancing blows and were too slow to bring any of their own skills to bear. Although they looked disadvantaged, they weren't taking much real damage. The giant python's stats were nothing to scoff at: 5,400 physical strength and solid defense, and Zhang Taotao's voice trembled with worry. What if it's too agile? What do we do then? Lin Moyu only whispered, "Don't worry." A faint shimmer ran across his palm as he pointed at the serpent. Slow curse. A wash of red light filled the cave, and a low, insectile buzzing echoed through the air, like something ominous settling into place. A red shackle-shaped sigil appeared on the top of the python's head, and almost instantly, the snake's speed dropped. It moved at half its previous pace. With its speed gone, the python no longer had the advantage. The skeleton warrior closed in easily, as then grappling the reptile, and his heavy blade came down in furious, sweeping slashes. The first blows bit through scales, the next detonated with necromantic power, tearing more armor away. Blood spattered and scales shattered as the python let out a series of anguished shrieks. "Is that a curse?" Zhang Taotao asked, eyes fixed on the red mark. Lin Moyu nodded. "Yes. A necromancer isn't just a summoner, he's a spellcaster too." With the serpent slowed, it was forced into close combat with the skeleton, and Lin followed up with another spell, Death Coil. The dark energy wrapped around the python, amplifying the damage and driving it back under the skeleton's relentless assault. Lin Moyu activated the skill, and a giant python coiled around several skeleton warriors. The bones clicked and ground against each other with a violent, dizzying noise, but the skeletons were too resilient to be truly harmed. They simply kept attacking, knives flashing, each blade plunging into the serpent again and again. The python finally lost its grip and spat a spray of venom. The cave filled instantly with a nauseating stench that made everyone want to retch. The venom splattered across the skeletons. Lin Moyu could tell they'd taken minor damage, but nothing serious. Their 4 core attributes were evenly balanced. No pain, no fear. The skeleton warriors were almost perfect. The python tried every tactic it could think of, but against those relentless skeletons, it was helpless. Even its greatest advantage, speed, counted for nothing in the face of their unflinching onslaught. After 2 minutes of struggling and being cut, the giant python finally collapsed to the ground, its eyes full of unwillingness and defeat. Kill the pet snake of the mermaid queen at level 23. Experience 5,000. Obtain silver-level armor, snakeskin armor. Obtain an intermediate monster crystal nucleus. Zhang Taotao's mouth twitched. He could hardly believe it. "Is that really it?" "Yep," Lin Moyu answered and stepped off, landing cleanly on the lip of the cave. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Ning Yi beamed. She was positively thrilled. The stronger Lin Moyu got, the happier she seemed to be. "Don't just stand there," she said, and hopped down with the light, graceful motion of a butterfly, far more elegant than Lin Moyu's solid, deliberate landing. Only then did Zhang Taotao and the others snap out of their daze and follow, one by one. They passed through the short tunnel and emerged into the open. The blue sun hung low in the sky, and beyond it, a magnificent palace came into view, the Mermaid Queen's palace. The sharp, fishy scent that had clung to the cave was gone. In its place was a faint, pleasant fragrance. The grounds were clean and orderly. From where they stood to the palace gate, patrols of merfolk kept watch. Each patrol moved in groups of 3 mermaid soldiers, pacing steadily along the path toward the palace. They were clad in armor and armed with tridents, looking every bit the disciplined soldiers. "Don't use any detection spells," Zhang Taotao warned. "If anyone uses them, it'll alert the patrols." The mermaid-like soldiers weren't far off. If they weren't careful, they could end up pulling an entire pack. Ning Yi counted aloud, lips pursed in concentration. 1, 2, 3. She frowned. There are 60 patrol groups, 180 mermaids in total. "Great," she muttered, sticking her tongue out at the sheer number. Zhang Taotao glanced over the formations and added, "And they all look enhanced, elite types. Taking more than one on at a time will be tough." "Then how do we handle them?" Ning Yi asked, looking to Lin Moyu. "With numbers like that, The situation felt overwhelming. Lin Moyu's eyes lit up. He liked seeing so many foes in front of him. The more, the merrier. Simple, he said. Before anyone could react, 20 skeletal warriors burst into being and charged forward. Their sudden appearance immediately drew the attention of the mermaid soldiers. Teams of soldiers charged after the skeleton warriors. Pull monsters? Is he trying to lure away that many enemies? That was a dangerous gambit. It could easily go wrong. As the skeletons drew attention, Lin Moyu's detection ability followed the trail and locked onto one of the creatures. Mermaid Elite Sergeant, Enhanced Elite Monster, Level 22, Power 200, Agility 1400, Spirit 1000, Physique 2400, Skill Dizzy Sweep. Seeing the Mermaid Sergeant's stats, Lin Moyu quietly set his limits. He knew what he could and couldn't handle. In a short time, the skeleton warriors had herded all 180 Mermaid Elite Sergeants together. Then one skeleton broke away and ran straight for Lin Moyu, dragging the monsters with it. Zhang Taotao felt her heart jump. What on earth was Lin Moyu doing? The skeleton halted 60 meters from Lin Moyu, turned and unleashed its ability. At the same moment, the Mermaid Sergeants activated their skills. The three-pronged tridents in their hands flashed as they swept with deadly precision. Skill, Frenzied Strike. Ability, Stunning Sweep. The two attacks met. Beams of skill light shot into the sky, exploding in a dazzling bloom like fireworks. The skeleton warrior's stats were ridiculously high, especially the one with the explosive skill. Its attributes were several times greater than those of the elite mermaid sergeants. When their abilities collided, the skeleton won cleanly. One of the elite mermaid soldiers collapsed to the ground. "Cover your ears," Lin Moyu told Ning Yi. "Oh!" Ning Yi hurriedly clapped her hands over her ears. Before Zhang Taotao and the others could even process what was happening, a deafening blast shook the air, nearly knocking them off their feet. More bangs followed in rapid succession. Skill, Corpse Burst. After several thunderous detonations, the noise died away and everything fell eerily quiet. The group stood frozen, stunned by the stream of on-screen notifications popping up. Experience gained, loot collected. It was the first time Zhang Taotao and the others had felt the exhilaration of instant experience rewards. "This," someone muttered. "My God, what was that? How did that happen? How did he do it? What kind of skill is that? Those explosions, so powerful." None of the elite mermaid soldiers survived the onslaught. They were wiped out, leaving behind a massive haul of experience and materials. The sight set several of them buzzing with excitement. Amid the fading echoes of the blasts, the heavy gates of the Mermaid Queen's palace rumbled open. "It looks like the chapter text didn't come through. There's only a single period. Could you paste the chapter you want revised? If you have any preferences, please tell me. Tone, faithful to original, more polished, humorous, darker, etc. How closely to preserve original phrasing versus smoothing it out. Any terms or names that must remain unchanged. Once you send the chapter, I'll rewrite it into natural, idiomatic English while keeping all plot points and details." Chapter 69. Complete the trial and never group again. The palace gates of the Mermaid Queen opened, and a strange breath swept out. A soft, azure light spilled across the courtyard, and with it the Mermaid Queen appeared, noble, graceful, and impossibly beautiful. She was not human, but that only made her allure more otherworldly. Ning Yi's breath caught. "What a beauty," she whispered to herself. Her eyes glazed over and her pupils went unfocused. Before she realized what she was doing, she took a step toward the Mermaid Queen. Lin Moyu lunged forward and grabbed her arm, pulling her back. It wasn't only Ning Yi. Another member of their group was dazed as well. Lin Moyu, Miao Yu, and Duan Gao remained alert, but the spell had clearly touched some of them. "It's an illusion," Miao Yu said, eyes narrowing. She moved quickly and cast a dispelling skill, Sober, sending several beams of clear light across the group. The light struck everyone nearby. Ning Yi blinked and snapped back as if waking from a dream. "What was that?" she asked, startled. Zhang Taotao shuddered and recovered her focus at the same time. "What happened?" she demanded. Miao Yu fixed the Mermaid Queen with a wary stare. "She's using a personal enchantment," she said. "It affected both you and Yi. I dispelled the enchantment with the sobriety skill. Because Lin Moyu, Duan Gao, and Miao Yu all had relatively high spirit power, the Mermaid Queen's self-confusion technique didn't affect them. Ning Yi hugged herself and muttered, "That was scary." Zhang Taotao let out a long breath. She's a boss. It's normal for her to have unusual abilities. We've been in plenty of dungeons. Even low-level bosses can have tricks that are hard to anticipate. He added that the queen had almost burned them a moment ago. The Mermaid Queen's gaze swept over the slain mermaid elite sergeant and settled on the skeleton warrior. Without warning, she screamed. Though she looked stunning, the sound was painfully shrill. Everyone covered their ears. The scream rolled out in layered waves, whipping up a gust that scattered the dead across the floor. Corpses flew in all directions. Lin Moyu's eyes narrowed. He had been waiting for the queen to approach so he could trigger corpse explosion, but her scream had sent the bodies flying before he had the chance. The skeleton warriors surged forward into the gale, bracing themselves against the Mermaid Queen's blast. The queen towered over them, at least 5 meters tall, and against her presence, the skeletons looked almost insignificant. They seemed fragile, but the fierce winds she whipped up couldn't blow them down. They kept coming, bone against storm. As the skeletons advanced, Zhang Taotao's detection skill flickered to life, revealing the queen's information. Mermaid Queen, boss monster, level 24, power 5,000, agility 6,000, spirit 5,000, physique 6,000. Skills, horror scream, huge waves, queen's cry. Her stats were enormous. In agility and physique, she outclassed the skeleton warriors, and her power and spirit were only marginally lower. After all, she was a level 24 dungeon boss, while the skeleton warriors were only level 17, a full 7 levels below. Zhang Taotao stared in shock at the readout. Zhang Taotao swallowed and said, "Compared with most dungeons, the Mermaid King has much higher stats. If you play it the normal way, it'll take at least an hour to bring her down." By the normal way, she meant a full 6-player team, 1 cavalier tank, 2 supports, and 3 damage dealers. That kind of composition could chip away at an instance boss slowly but steadily. What was happening now, however, didn't fit any of her expectations. Lin Moyu's presence had upended everything she thought she knew about class balance. Could the gap between professions really be this wide? She couldn't make sense of it. 20 skeleton warriors swarmed the Mermaid Queen. She stood her ground, brandishing a huge trident and sweeping it in wide arcs. Each sweep sent a skeleton flying, only for it to scramble to its feet and return to Tang. He attack. Lin Moyu could feel the skeletons taking damage from the queen's blows. Her strength stat was a staggering 5,000, enough to hurt the skeletons on contact. Her constitution was even higher, at 6,000, which drastically reduced the damage those skeletons could inflict on her. The skeleton warriors had the Mermaid Queen surrounded like a pack of wolves circling a lion. With only 20 of them, it was hard to say if they could bring her down, but after several exchanges, a number of the skeletons were already breaking, their bones splintered, their movements sluggish. Zhang Taotao watched and called out, "Duan Gao, give us a buff and be ready to jump in. We'll take the crest when the skeletons start to collapse." Before she could act, Lin Moyu shook her head. No need. A faint glow spread across her palm. A massive red net blazed into being overhead. Slow curse! The net slammed onto the Mermaid Queen, red shackles coiling around her head and shoulders, dragging her speed down and sharply reducing her combat effectiveness. The Mermaid Queen recoiled as the curse hit. Her skin began to glow, and a raw, keening scream burst from her. Then she unleashed a retaliatory attack. Huge waves! Azure light flooded the area as titanic waves surged outward, sweeping through the encirclement and instantly scattering the skeletons. The waves towered and tossed the undead into the air, flinging them into spiraling, violent arcs where the force shredded bone and racked joints. Several skeleton warriors were ripped apart outright. Many more were left badly damaged and tumbling in the foam-like spray of the Mermaid Queen's power. The bones crumbled. Lin Moyu snapped them back without a second thought. Zhang Taotao tightened her grip on sword and shield, feeling the urge that she should finish this herself if the chance came. When the skill faded, the towering wave vanished, and a single skeleton warrior plummeted from the sky. At that moment, Lin Moyu lifted a finger. Wind howled around him, his eyes darkening, and he unleashed the rest, 88 more skeletons burst forth at once. They sprinted toward the Mermaid Queen like bolts of lightning. There are so many. Did he just summon all of them? This is terrifying. Only then did a few people realize Lin Moyu had only released a fraction of his summons before. Jiang Taotao's mind raced. If he wanted to, he could probably wipe out the merfolk blocking the path with ease. A few more of those massive explosions, and they'd be done. The nearly 100 skeleton warriors encircled the Mermaid Queen in an instant. They swarmed over her, launching skill after skill. Blows rained down, tearing at her scales and skin. The Mermaid Queen let out a piercing scream as she was battered beneath the onslaught. The trident in the Mermaid Queen's hand whipped through the air like a mad thing, and the wielder's whole body moved with frantic, jerking motions. Under the effect of the slow curse, the timing of its attacks became warped, and they couldn't throw the skeleton warrior off their backs. A game notification crackled in their ears. Skill, Queen's Cry. Mermaid Queen used a skill. The sound hit Jiang Taotao and Ning Yi at the same time. Their pupils glazed over, and their legs went weak. Miao Yu snatched for her sobering skill, desperate to shake them awake, but it didn't work. "No, my level's too low," she muttered. "A player awakening skill can't counter a boss skill." Lin Moyu leaned close and whispered, "It's fine. As long as he himself wasn't affected, they could still be saved." He grabbed Ning Yi before she could stumble forward, anchoring her in place. Miao Yu hauled Jiang Taotao back the same way. Lin Moyu's spirit, his resistance, was high enough that the Queen's Cry hadn't touched him. The skeleton warriors, too, were unaffected. They had no feelings, no pain, no fear. They couldn't be swayed or pitied. Their broadswords never paused. The Mermaid Queen's skill ebbed away, then the trident came down again in a blur. When the Queen's Cry ended, Ning Yi and Jiang Taotao shook themselves and blinked back to focus, terror obvious on both their faces. The skill was terrifying. The two of them had no chance against it. Azure light flared again, and enormous waves surged forward. The breakers swept up several skeleton warriors, though a few of them still clung stubbornly to the Mermaid Queen. With his other hand, he gripped a pair of knives and kept slicing at the mushroom enemies, never letting up. Because of that stubborn resistance, the tsunami's effect was reduced, and the fight dragged on. For a full 3 minutes they struggled, until finally the Mermaid Queen collapsed to the ground with one last scream. Kill the Mermaid Queen. Experience. Obtain a silver-grade weapon, Mermaid Queen's longsword. Obtain a silver-grade weapon, Mermaid Queen staff. Obtain Mermaid Tears F. Mermaid Queen's longsword, silver. Strength plus 50, Constitution plus 50, Warrior skills 10%. Usable from level 20. Mermaid Queen's staff, silver. Spirit plus 50, Constitution plus 50, Mage skills 10%. Kua Taotao clenched his fists in excitement. In addition to the Mermaid Tears, he'd looted 2 silver-grade weapons, a huge upgrade over bronze gear. The stat boosts were far better than anything he'd been using. A 10% skill power bonus would make every class noticeably stronger in combat. Ning Yi jumped up, grinning. Yes, the trial mission is complete. We're one step closer to getting into the seminary, Jiang Taotao said with a smile. If we finish a few more trial tasks and level up a bit, we'll definitely make it, and thanks to Lin Moyu this time. Without him, we probably couldn't have done it. Miao Yu murmured. Yeah, the worst one was Ling Zhen. Don't even get me started on him. I'll never team up with someone like that again, Jiang Taotao said through clenched teeth. She had no patience for people like Ling Zhen. Lin Moyu checked the time. It had been about half an hour since they entered the instance. There were probably still fights going on outside. Even if other teams had entered the dungeon, they wouldn't be moving this fast. Yi, do you have a cooldown shield? He asked. Ning Yi's eyes flashed with understanding. She smiled. Of course I do. Chapter 70. Why did they go back in and take you flying? Outside the dungeon, the two sides still faced off. Another skirmish had broken out half an hour ago and held the field, so no one could take advantage of a gap. Both sides hovered about 50 meters from the entrance. Anyone who tried to get closer was struck by a crackling thunderfield that slammed them back. Then suddenly, 5 figures appeared at the dungeon mouth. 10 skeleton warriors appeared with them, forming a shield as the 5 walked out. Under the bone's protection, Lin Moyu and the others emerged. "They're out," someone breathed. "It's so fast. Only half an hour?" Another voice said in disbelief. "Maybe they gave up." "Heh!" came a chorus of scoffs from the Sakura contingent. "Those skeletons are tough-looking, perfect for meat shields." They laughed among themselves, derisive and certain. In their view, the skeletons were simply hard and numerous, nothing more. They couldn't imagine that Lin Moyu had actually finished the dungeon. Half an hour was laughably short. No matter how well a team was set up, clearing a nightmare-level dungeon in less than an hour or two was unthinkable. So they jeered, convinced the group had retreated. What they didn't expect was that those figures walking out under a wall of clattering bone were the ones who had just beaten the nightmare. The Shengxia Empire breathed a sigh of relief when Lin Moyu and the others emerged unharmed. "Just get back safely," people kept repeating. "It doesn't matter if the run fails, just come back alive. If you survive, there'll be other chances." Ling Zhen scoffed. "Lucky I escaped with my skin intact." Zhang Taotao scanned the crowd and noticed almost everyone was still there. Only a few people were missing. It meant nobody else had gone into the instance. "Be careful," he warned. Ning Yi grinned. "Don't worry, I've got something. Everything will be fine." "I'll wait out here," Lin Moyu said. Duan Gao and Miao Yu echoed him. "Go on, do it." The three of them stepped back toward the Shengxia group. Ning Yi and Lin Moyu paired up, and under everyone's watchful eyes, she produced a cooling talisman and activated it. As dusk fell, the dungeon's cooldown dropped back to 0. The two of them entered the instance again. People around them muttered in surprise. Why are they going back in? What are they trying to do? Only 2 people are entering the instance. Even on normal difficulty, 2 people won't be enough. Wait, she has a basic cooling talisman? If she's carrying something like that, her background isn't simple. That's something money can't easily buy. Primary cooling talismans weren't easy to come by. Lin Moyu had checked both the Imperial Exchange and the Shuifu Exchange and found none for sale. He'd only ever seen one in Xiashui's possession before. He'd asked on a whim earlier and hadn't expected Ning Yi to actually have one too. Like Xiashui's, Ning Yi's talisman was a basic model with 10 charges. After 10 uses, it needed to be recharged. Ning Yi still had 5 charges left. If they went in with Zhang Taotao and the others, they'd only manage 1 more run. If it was just Ning Yi and Lin Moyu, they could make it through 2 more runs. After a short discussion, they decided to enter the dungeon. Whether Zhang Taotao, Duan Gao, and Huang Yu came along or not didn't matter. So long as Lin Moyu went, it would be enough. The moment they stepped into the dungeon, Ning Yi's little face lit up. Even the usual damp, musty smell seemed less offensive to her. "You promised you'd help me level up," she said brightly. "I didn't expect it to happen so soon." Lin Moyu smiled. "I promised, so I will." Ning's grin grew even wider. "Starting now, I want to take part too, but I can only take 1 at a time." "Fine," Lin agreed. 10 skeleton warriors answered Lin's command and charged down the passage. After each skeleton had earned a sliver of experience, Lin didn't dally playing with them one by one. She corralled the monsters in the corridor and began to lure them foe. Reward. The skeletons ran at the head of the line, with elite mermaid fighters trailing behind. 5 minutes later, the little procession arrived at the mouth of a cavern, the lair of the Mermaid Queen's pet snake. More than 30 elite mermaid fighters had been dragged along. The skeletons leapt down into the cavern, and the enemies followed in a chaotic tumble. When they had all dropped in, Lin Moyu and Ning Yi appeared at the far end of the passage. The giant python, leader of the elite group, had gone into a frenzied pursuit, lungs flaring as it chased the skeletons and its soldiers. Dark energy swirled around it as it unleashed a skill, Slow Curse. A flashing red light swept the cavern, and ghostly shackle marks bloomed on the heads of every monster. Their movements slowed instantly. Seizing the moment, the skeleton warriors spun around and counterattacked. More than a dozen of them converged on a single elite mermaid. The unlucky fighter was torn apart almost before she could react. Skill, Corpse Burst. A thunderous explosion ripped through the cave. The shockwave rattled the rock, sending gravel and dust raining down. The chained and wounded merfolk were caught in the blast, one explosion after another, and the elite contingent was wiped out almost instantly. System messages scroll across the HUD. Kill. level 21 Mermaid Elite, EXP plus 25,000. Loot, Fish Skin X6. Kill, level 21 Mermaid Elite, EXP plus 25,000. Loot, Fish Skin X10. Notifications kept appearing. In all, over 30 level 21 Mermaid Elites had been slaughtered, yielding more than 700,000 experience in total. The party's experience bars surged upward at once. The giant python, still reeling, hadn't yet understood what was happening. The corpse explosions had already dealt it heavy damage, and Lin Moyu pushed his advantage. He chained his abilities, detonating corpses one after another, 10 explosions in barely 3 seconds. With a final agonized scream, the colossal snake collapsed to the cave floor. Kill, Mermaid Queen's Pet Snake, level 3. Loot, Silver Tier Armor, Snakeskin Light Armor. Loot, Intermediate Monster Crystal Nucleus. Last time we came through here, it took over half an hour to clear the monsters one by one. This time it only took 5 minutes. The pace was several times faster. Nice! Ning Yi's eyes curved into bright crescents. She looked very pleased. Lin Moyu blinked in surprise for a moment, then said softly, "Let's go." The two of them dove into the cave and pressed on. Before long, they reached the Mermaid Queen's palace. Elite mermaid guards patrolled the approach in numbers, but the skeleton warrior charged ahead and the fight erupted. One after another, explosive bursts rocked the area, and they tore through the enemies, earning piles more experience and loot. A white light shimmered around Ning Yi's body. She giggled. "Hee hee, I'm leveling up." "Finally level 20, she announced, stretching and letting out a satisfied sigh. Lin Moyu remembered when he'd first met her. Ning Yi had already been level 19, while he was only level 10. Even after all this time she'd stayed at 19, he'd always thought she was lazy about grinding levels. Seeing her hit 20 now, he couldn't help but smile at her relaxed pace. It looked like one of those enemies that couldn't move on its own. Azure light cascaded down, and the Mermaid Queen's palace reopened. The beautiful, noble queen glided out like a living statue. Ning Yi ducked instinctively behind Lin Moyu. "If I don't look at her, I won't get confused," she whispered, still shaken from their last encounter. With Lin Moyu as a human shield, she managed to keep her head. The queen saw that one of her lieutenants had fallen and screamed in fury. This time, Lin Moyu was ready. The skeleton warriors fell back in an orderly line, each carrying the corpses of the elite mermaid soldiers. The queen's scream sent a wave through the air, but it didn't blow the bodies away. The skeletons simply retreated with their loads. As the sound faded, the skeletal retinue scrambled back to guard their mistress. Lin Moyu fired at that moment. Skill, Slow Curse. Scarlet chains laced around Queen Pingyu, dragging her movements to a crawl. The skeletons reached the skeleton queen with a dozen corpses in tow. Then the old standby was unleashed. Skill, Corpse Burst. It was nothing fancy, just a time-worn tactic, but brutally effective. This dungeon's mechanics made such plays possible. It was deliberately set up with enhanced elite monsters stationed in front of the palace, exactly the kind of support Lin Moyu could exploit. In the dungeon, slain monsters' bodies only lingered for a short time, roughly 2 minutes. The Mermaid Queen had burst out right within that window. If she had appeared later, Lin Moyu wouldn't have been able to make use of the corpses. Corpse Burst's damage scales with the corpse's vitality. With Lin Moyu's talent enhancement, the skill dealt 300% of a corpse's vitality as damage. The Mermaid Queen, even as a dungeon boss, had only about 20 to 30 times the vitality of an enhanced elite monster. With those numbers, the chained explosions from the corpses were devastating. Amid a cacophony of detonations, the Mermaid Queen let out a howl and collapsed to the floor. She never had a chance to activate a single skill. She was practically one-shot. System: Kill the Mermaid Queen. Experience 200,000. Obtained Silver Tier Weapon, Mermaid Queen's Dagger. Obtained Silver Tier Weapon, Mermaid Queen's Magic Book. Obtained Mermaid Tiers ×1. Item details: Mermaid Queen's Dagger, Silver, Agility 50, Constitution plus 50, Assassin Skill Power plus 10%. Usable at level 20. Mermaid Queen's Magic Book, Silver, Spirit plus 100, Mage Skills 10%. Usable at level 20. They cleared the instance in under 10 minutes. Unbelievably fast, incredibly efficient. Ning Yi clapped her hands with excitement. "Come on, let's run it again." Make sure you grab all 3 mermaid tears. Chapter 71. Kill Shikigami in a flash and scare away Sakura country. They spawned another instance. Ning Yi wasted no time and used the cooldown talisman. Seconds later, the two of them were back inside the dungeon. Outside, the people still facing off watched in confusion. "What are they doing?" someone asked. "Why did they come out only to go back in again? That talisman isn't meant to be used like that. It's such a waste. Are they rich or just reckless?" No one understood what Lin Moyu and Ning Yi were up to. Even after guessing, they couldn't imagine that the two were repeatedly running the mermaid dungeon on nightmare difficulty, and doing it in just 10 minutes. Only Zhang Taotao and a few others knew the truth. The 3 exchanged stunned looks. They already knew Lin Moyu could solo mermaid dungeons, but finishing one in 10 minutes was unbelievable. Even a casual run would usually take far longer. Lin Moyu kept to the same routine, leading Ning Yi through the dungeon again. It took 8 minutes and 58 seconds this time, over 30 seconds faster than last run. Ning Yi glanced at her wrist communicator. The display read 8:33 and was counting down. Lin Moyu chuckled. Ning really treated the trial like a game, not a chore. After the two of them left the instance, they didn't go back in. They rejoined the Shengxia Empire team instead. "The cooling talisman's out of charges," someone announced. "What a waste. Too chicken to go back in? Come on, if you've got the nerve." Voices from the Sakura contingent carried across, full of sneering and thinly veiled jealousy, more than one of them eyeing the spent talisman as if they could snatch it away. Lin Moyu and Ning Yi rejoined Zhang Taotao's group. "Did you get it?" Zhang asked. Lin Moyu handed the mermaid's tears over to Zhang Taotao. They were on the same team for this trial. Zhang was the captain, and it was her responsibility to finish the final task. Then someone suddenly pointed toward the dungeon and screamed, "The dungeon! It's gone!" The shout struck like thunder. Everyone went silent and turned, eyes wide with shock. The swirling portal at the dungeon entrance shuddered once, twice, and then simply winked out of existence. "How did the instance disappear?" someone demanded. "That doesn't make sense," another replied. "An instance only collapses if all 3 mermaids' tears have been claimed. Did that person go in 3 times just now? Could they have actually gotten the tears? They supposedly cleared nightmare difficulty. How could that be possible?" Speculation rippled through the crowd, but the fact was obvious. The instance was gone. There would be no more mermaid's tears to take. "Let's go," Lin Moyu said softly. If the tears had already been taken, there was nothing more to be done here. "We can't let them get away." Voices rose in anger. "They must have the mermaid's tears. Take them back. Hand over the tears, or you won't be leaving this place alive." Soldiers and adventurers from the Cherry Blossom country surged forward, overflowing their ranks. Representatives from the Shengxia Empire watched with narrowed eyes. One of them called out, "Zhang Taotao, did you actually get the mermaid's tears?" Zhang Taotao didn't bother to deny it. "The tears are in my possession." A collective hiss ran through the crowd. That confirmation meant it was true. They had cleared the dungeon, nightmare difficulty and all. The impossible had happened. Everyone stared in disbelief. The last 2 times the dungeon had been cleared by only 2 people. How had they done it? Ling Zhen felt the doubt like a cold hand in his chest. There's no way, he thought. They couldn't have cleared the dungeon. Outside, the assembled forces of Sakura country and the allied contingents from the Shengxia Empire, Xiajing Academy, and Qianlong Academy bristled with anger. The crowd snapped into a tight battle formation, voices rising in a chorus of outrage and command. "Fall back," someone barked. "How dare those Yinghua country people act up in front of our Shengxi, a empire," another shouted. "If they're trying to steal the mermaid tears, they'll be stopped." A sudden roar split the air. A gust blew the clouds aside, and 2 massive Shikigami materialized, hovering above the battlefield. The Onmyoji, who had been hiding at the edge of the fray, finally stepped forward, revealing himself. He rode one of the enormous Shikigami, the other looming menacingly behind him, and a powerful aura radiated from his body. From the strength of his presence alone, it was clear he wasn't a novice. He had to be at least level 30. His profession was unmistakable, an Onmyoji, a legendary class unique to Sakura country, and with such formidable Shikigami at his command, he would be no easy foe. Jiang Taotao's brow lifted slightly. This person is at least level 30, she murmured, feeling a flicker of unease. Then she reminded herself why she wasn't truly worried. Even a powerful mermaid queen wouldn't last more than a minute or two against Lin Moyu's summons. No matter how strong this Onmyoji looked, there was no way he could have soloed the Nightmare Mermaid dungeon. Lin Moyu's skeletons were each frighteningly powerful. Putting that together, Jiang relaxed a little. The Onmyoji fixed her with a cold stare. "Hand over the mermaid tears, or you won't be leaving," he said. Both of his Shikigami swung their heads toward Jiang in unison, eyes hard and unyielding. Before she could reply, Lin Moyu had already moved. Fire ignited in his palm. Skill, soul flame. A blue-white flame sprang to life above one Shikigami's head and in the next instant drove into its body. A ripping, ear-piercing scream tore through the air. The spirit convulsed, its form warped and contorted as a harsh wind cut through the clearing. The Onmyoji's face went pale with alarm. He began throwing out spells frantically, trying to stabilize the wounded Shikigami. The Onmyoji glared at Lin Moyu and hissed, "You're dead!" A new, terrifying Shikigami materialized overhead. Over 3 meters tall, clad in armor, with a snake's head and a humanoid body, it gripped a massive axe and lunged toward Lin Moyu. "Do it!" the Onmyoji ordered. Qianlong Academy's fighters unleashed a barrage of attacks on the axe-wielding Shikigami, but their efforts barely scratched it, like splashing water against a boulder. The Onmyoji scoffed, "Your blows only tickle my giant axe." 5 skeletal warriors rose up beside Lin Moyu. He sprang into the air to meet the descending Shikigami. Frenzied strike, the red glow from the skeleton's blades flared. When the skill hit, the attack attribute surged to 5,400, and the skill's effect doubled that power. With a series of bone-shattering impacts, the seemingly invincible Shikigami disintegrated in an instant, collapsing into a puff of blue smoke that dissipated on the wind. Lin Moyu blinked in surprise. "So weak," he murmured. The Shikigami that had looked so formidable turned out to be surprisingly fragile. The other attacks had no effect, but Lin Moyu's skeleton cut the spirit down in 2 or 3 blows, as if it were nothing. Whispers ran through the crowd. Were Shikigami really that weak, or was Lin Moyu's skeleton simply too strong? The Shikigami collapsed. Its Onmyoji, the spirit's master, suffered grievously as well. His face drained of color, and he spat a mouthful of blood. The little flare of fire in Lin Moyu's hand blinked again. The wounded Shikigami screamed as it was struck a second time. 2 skeletal warriors materialized at its sides without a sound, lifted their knives, and brought them down. The spirit was gone in an instant. The Onmyoji let out a raw cry, hurriedly drove the seated Shikigami to fly upward and away from Lin Moyu, then turned to face him with equal parts hatred and fear. For a long beat, everyone was frozen. Both sides stopped and stared at Lin Moyu as if at some kind of monster. How can his skeleton be this strong? That was a Shikigami, killed so easily. What kind of skeleton is that? What profession does he belong to? How high a level is he? 100 questions burst in the air, unanswered and ringing with disbelief. The people of Sakura country couldn't figure out Lin Moyu's true rank or profession. He wore a shield badge that hid his occupation and level from ordinary scrutiny, and that only made him more mysterious. From above, however, the Onmyoji who'd been hovering on their Shikigami could see clearly. Lin Moyu was a level 17, no ordinary class either, but a necromancer. To have that much power at level 17 was terrifying. It was obvious he had awakened his talent unusually early. He was a natural. The Onmyoji exchanged glances, realizing they had to report this. A dangerous practitioner had appeared within the Shenxia Empire. Without another word, one of them swung up onto his Shikigami and took off, not daring to look back. He had already lost 2 Shikigami in rapid succession. His pride stung as if his heart were bleeding. On the arena floor, 10 skeleton warriors stepped out in perfect formation. A cold, bluish-white light washed over their bones. The great cleavers they carried flashed with an icy sheen. Soulfire danced along their joints, and a biting wind swept the area. Even from a distance, the sight of them was enough to turn stomachs. No one in Sakura country dared to move against those skeletons. The Onmyoji they had just driven back so easily had been a warning. How could anyone hope to stop this? Retreat or fight? The decision hung over them like a threat. The skeletal warrior shifted, its bones grinding as it strode toward the Sakura country soldier. The massive knife in its hand swung with a cold whisper. The skeleton pressed forward. The men of Sakura country fell back, their line thinning and their resolve ebbing. The pressure from the creature was overwhelming. Once their morale broke, there was no point in fighting. When the first man turned and fled, screaming, the rest of the Sakura contingent collapsed completely. Chapter 72, Chicken Soup Needs Something New. The Shensha Empire team came back laughing and joking among themselves. Those Sakura guys were hilarious, completely ran away at the first sign of trouble. It was priceless, another replied. They were absolutely terrified. All those so-called professionals scared off by a few skeletons. What a joke. He can even generate nightmare-level dungeons, someone added. If he really gets desperate, the Sakura Kingdom will drop them supplies. Of course, he'd have to escape first. If he doesn't get out, he's dead. As they talked, many of them stole looks at Lin Moyu. He had been silent the whole time, which only made him seem more enigmatic. Voices dropped into whispers as people speculated about where he came from. Where did he come from, one wondered. Can't be from any top academy, another said. Why would someone from a premier school come here? Besides, students at those top academies are busy grinding levels and downloading high-level dungeons. They don't have time to practice like this. The more they guessed, the more mysterious Lin Moyu appeared, quiet, inscrutable, and somehow apart from the rest. That's weird. Where is this so-called great god? Someone murmured. He never says much, another replied, and he certainly doesn't waste words. The way he tore through those Shikigami back there was brutal. The walk back toward home was easy. Even though they hadn't completed the trial, everyone felt satisfied with the day's gains. The experience alone was worth it. Enough, they joked, to send the people of Sakura country running. The trial itself had become secondary. Only Ling Zhen looked sour. He kept glancing at Lin Moyu, his eyes full of both hatred and regret. If he hadn't gone after Zhang Taotao earlier, he might have been one of those to finish Trial 02 this time. Now, we're not done, he thought, bitterness coiling in his chest. The group stepped out of the light curtain and returned to the starting point. Zhang Taotao pulled the mission stone and the mermaid's tears from his bag. Handing in the mission, he called. The mission stone and the mermaid's tears slowly rose into the air. A shimmering image of the god Shada took form above them, and a beam of light streamed down from the tower, striking the hovering mission stone and the mermaid's tears. A few seconds later, a majestic voice sounded from the sky. The trial mission is over. Return. A shimmering phantom of the god Shada burst into light, its radiance washing over everyone. In an instant, they were teleported away. 10 seconds later, they were all back at Qianlong Academy. They're back. The trial's over. Voices buzzed through the courtyard. Lucky they all made it back in one piece. Don't be ridiculous. Accidents like that don't happen often. Every year there are hundreds of trial runs across the academies. When have you ever heard of people dying in them? Low-level trials won't kill you, but at those top schools, pros over level 30 die every year. Exactly. To them, our trial is just child's play, a joke. Qianlong Academy was alive with chatter. Students clustered in groups, replaying the mission and trading opinions. The most talked-about topic by far was Lin Moyu. If it hadn't been for Lin Moyu this time, some said they might have been forced to go up against the delegation from Sakura country. Who knew whether they could have wrested the dungeon away? The other side had a high-level onmyoji, after all. Ningyi's face had gone pale again. The long-distance teleportation left her queasy and unsettled. She drew a shallow breath, trying to steady herself as the excitement and relief swirled around her. In the future, you'll have to find a nearby place for the trial. Miss Ben won't go somewhere that's too far, Zhang Taotao replied. Ningyi lay on the table, limp as a wet rag. Zhang Taotao smiled, her face relaxed now that she'd returned. Thank you, Ningyi murmured. This trial means a lot to me, she added, turning to Lin Moyu with sincere gratitude. Lin Moyu waved it off. No need to thank me. Ningyi drew herself together slowly. Sister Taozi, you don't have to be polite with Moyu. Moyu doesn't say much, but she's very kind. She hesitated, then admitted to herself that she hadn't known Lin Moyu long, yet, strangely, she found herself trusting her completely. Quiet, a low voice cut through the air. Everyone looked up. A single figure hovered in the space above them, standing on nothing. The display hovering beside the figure read, Level 70, Third Rotation Professional. Lin Moyu stared, impressed. Once a professional reaches level 70 and completes the third rotation, they gain the ability to step into the void and fly. No exceptions, even for lifestyle classes. There were, of course, rare professions that could fly earlier by other means. An onmyoji, for instance, might borrow a shikigami to take to the air, but that was a different case entirely. That's our dean, Ning Yi whispered to Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu only nodded slightly, admiration in his eyes. Any practitioner who could make it through the third stage deserved respect. As high school textbooks said, the third stage was extremely difficult. Fewer than 3% of professionals ever reached it. Figures like Baishen were even rarer. There were very few of them in the entire country. Dean Hongshan glanced over everyone, clearly pleased. This trial has ended. The procedure and the results are now being analyzed. Your final score will be sent to your communicators later. Remember, the most important thing in a trial is not the result but the process. Enjoy the process, banish fear, and keep the belief in victory. That is the purpose of a trial. Getting everyone through the trial alive is the only thing that matters, Dean Hongshan said. We heard you ran into operatives from the Sakura Kingdom during the exercise. We'll go over the details and analyze what happened. Those who do well will of course have a shot at the top schools. Go get some rest. When the dean finished, he turned and left. Ning Yi let out a long sigh. Every time it's the same. Serve up the same old motivational speech. Nothing changes. Zhang Taotao smiled, the way you do when trying to soothe a child. Just listen. It's still encouragement. Ning Yi snorted. I don't need encouragement. What's so great about dangling top schools in front of us every time? Zhang Taotao's smile widened. Maybe it doesn't mean much to you, but it matters to us. He paused, earnest. At Xiajing Academy, there's a big difference between ordinary students, students from other colleges, and those from the top programs. Getting into a top school changes everything. Everyone wants it, and everyone takes pride in it. Jiang Taotao divvied up the dungeon loot, and Lin Moyu collected his share afterward. The last 2 runs had mostly been cleared by him and Ning Yi, but Lin insisted that because they'd all been on the same team, the rewards should be split evenly. Once the pile was sorted, Ning Yi and Lin Moyu headed to the Imperial Exchange. Most of the items were useless to Lin. He planned to sell them for gold. Ning Yi, who didn't care much for money, handed her share over to him. She gave a half-joking excuse about having no room in her storage, which was scarcely believable. Anyone who knew her inventory would tell you she had plenty of space. Lin didn't refuse the gift, though, and accepted it. The gesture seemed to shift something between them. After that, they didn't feel the need to fuss over small things so much. At the exchange, they sold off the remaining silver-grade equipment. One of the drops from the run was a silver-level Mermaid Queen dagger. Lin had intended to give it to Ning Yi, but she surprised him by pulling out a different dagger, also silver, but with stronger attributes, and waving it in front of him. In the game's item hierarchy, black iron gear is for level 10 and below, bronze is for roughly levels 10-20, and once you pass level 20, you start swapping into the stronger silver tier equipment. Silver item is vary a lot. The best and worst silver pieces can have very different attributes. The Mermaid Queen they had just defeated was a level 24 boss, even though the dungeon itself was only tuned for level 20. That meant the silver weapons she dropped were nothing special in terms of stats. Their only real selling point was that they looked beautiful. At the Imperial Exchange, silver weapons go for anywhere between 50,000 and 200,000 gold, and the Mermaid Queen's weapons typically fetch around 70,000 each. Lin Moyu sold the 2 Mermaid Queen weapons along with the gathered materials and got 180,000 gold coins in return. Ning Yi noticed Lin standing there empty-handed and asked, "Aren't you going to keep a weapon?" There had been a magic book among the loot, but Lin had found it more trouble than it was worth and sold it as well. "It's useless to me," Lin replied, shaking his head. His class title included the word Mage, but he was actually a Necromancer, which meant the bonuses from staves or spellbooks didn't apply to him. Lin Moyu figured his class must come with its own specialty gear. That tiny spiritual bonus it granted was hardly worth anything. Ning Yi snorted. You need to save more money and buy more primary skill scrolls. Before your second transfer, you should learn every primary skill. He had never known that, but Ning Yi knew the system well. She put on her teacher's tone and explained patiently. If you haven't learned all the basic skills now, you won't be able to use intermediate skill scrolls properly after your second transfer. If you use an intermediate scroll to awaken a primary skill, then you'll be wasting it. Lin Moyu listened and finally understood. Intermediate scrolls could indeed awaken primary skills, and they cost hundreds of times more. Wasting one would be tragic. His communicator buzzed suddenly. When he picked it up, a firm voice came through. Lin Moyu, come to the Academic Affairs Office. Chapter 73. Everything is expected. Director Chu of Academic Affairs stepped aside with a respectful bow. Bai Yuan was lounging casually in the chair that should have been Chu's. When Lin Moyu arrived, he registered a flicker of surprise at Bai's presence, but kept his face composed. Baishan, Director Chu, Lin greeted coolly. Bai Yuan chuckled and waved him over. I watched the recording of the trial. You did very well. Is that why I called you here? Lin answered softly. I only did what I was supposed to. Bai's expression grew thoughtful. The real purpose of that trial was the mermaid tears. Lin still didn't know what the mermaid tears were for, but Bai continued as if reading his thoughts. Since the school arranged it this way, they have to be useful. He smiled, neither arrogant at his victories nor dispirited by setbacks, an even temper that marked someone destined for power. Do you know what the mermaid tears do? Lin shook his head. Bai's smile widened. Actually, very few people who took part in that trial know what the mermaid tears are really for. After all, the gap in levels is huge. Most people simply can't use it. The mermaid's tears affect the success rate for awakening talents on the second turn. Lin Moyu felt a flicker of surprise. He knew there was a chance to awaken a talent on the second turn, but it was infinitesimal, a 1 in a million kind of thing. He had assumed it was pure luck. He hadn't expected there to be items that could tilt the odds. Even so, he kept his face calm, betraying nothing. His eyes didn't change. Bai Yuan had been waiting to see some reaction and was left empty-handed. Instead of the excitement he hoped for, he felt only disappointment. Of course, mermaid tears aren't the only things that can awaken talent, Bai Yuan said, but they're relatively easy to obtain. We had calculated when and where Mermaid Island would appear, he continued, but we didn't expect Sakura Country to make the same calculation. It almost ruined the whole trial. Lin Moyu listened without interrupting. Bai smiled. Luckily you were there. You made a major contribution. In the Shenxia Empire, wrongdoers are punished and those who do good are rewarded, he added. Tell me what reward you want, and I'll make it happen. Lin Moyu thought for a moment before speaking. Can you find someone for me? Bai Yuan chuckled. I figured you'd ask that. Didn't you check with the Academic Affairs Office? He leaned back, eyes thoughtful. Your elder sister, Lin Mohan, enrolled at the academy last year, and at the beginning of this year she joined the Creation Theological Academy. But if you look her up there, you'll only find blank entries. He shrugged. All the student profiles for those who joined the Creation Theological Academy are empty. No personal details, no records. That's why she's so hard to trace. Lin Moyu was genuinely startled. Sister joined the Creation Seminary? He knew how difficult it was to get into the Creation Seminary. It was the school's premier program, notoriously exclusive and nearly impossible to break into. Zhang Taotao had always said her ultimate goal was to enter the Creation Seminary. Ning Yi had told him the same thing. If he ever could, he must try to get into the Creation Seminary. It had always felt like something wrapped in mystery. He never expected his sister to succeed first. A nagging doubt rose in him. How could his older sister, Lin Mohan, have been accepted less than half a year after enrolling? Even students like Zhang Taotao, who had been groomed by the academy, hadn't managed it. Bai Yuan only nodded. Lin Mohan did get into the Creation Seminary, she confirmed, lowering her voice. but their rules are strict. I'm not allowed to tell you anything about it. You can only join the Creation Theological Academy on your own, Bai Yuan said. Until you're officially a member, you won't be allowed to see your sister. Lin Moyu didn't hesitate. How do I apply to the academy? Bai Yuan had already prepared. He tapped his communicator a few times, and Lin Moyu's device chimed with a new message. There, Bai said. I've just sent you the entry requirements for the Creation Theological Academy. Take a look when you have time. And the information about your sister, Bai added. I was always going to tell you that. It wasn't part of your reward, so pick something else. Lin Moyu thought for a moment. I want a cooling amulet. Director Chu gave the exact look Bai had been waiting for. Bai slapped the table and laughed. Old Chu, wasn't I right? Director Chu laughed in return. My lord, you really do have the instincts of a god. Bai grinned at Lin Moyu. Do you understand how valuable cooling amulets are? Even a primary cooling talisman can't be bought casually. Lin Moyu nodded. Bai Yuan went on. Everything you do counts. You did extremely well on the national exam and won first place. You've already received the rewards you earned, and we'll settle that. Your performance on the trial mission also counts as merit, but it's not enough by itself to get a primary cooling talisman. I have a task for you. Complete it, and I'll help you obtain one. Lin Moyu's eyes lit up. Okay. Bai Yuan explained. A primary cooling talisman will make things much easier for you. It can be used repeatedly over a short period and will dramatically speed up your leveling. But you must reach level 20 before you can take on this task. For advice on how to level up, speak with Director Chu. He's an expert in that area. When you reach level 20, contact me. Bai Yuan's contact was added to Lin Moyu's communicator. His path was clear. Reach level 20, call Bai Yuan to get the cooling talisman, join the Creation Academy, and find his sister. Lin Moyu set a goal for himself. After Bai Yuan left, Director Chu returned to his seat and looked at Lin Moyu with a smile. From Bai Yuan's earlier manner, he could tell the older man was unusually optimistic about the young man. He knew Bai's usual temperament well. Over the years, Director Chu had never seen him treat anyone so kindly. Even the top prodigies at the Creation Theological Academy didn't get that kind of softness. Bai Yuan's favor toward Lin Moyu stood out so much that if Chu didn't know better, he might have suspected Lin was Bai's illegitimate son. Chu chuckled and said, There are lots of ways to level up, but the fastest is definitely soloing a dungeon. He smiled faintly and continued, The problem is solo runs are hard and risky. Most people can only manage normal difficulty, and many never even make it to the final boss because they can't beat it. Aside from solo dungeons, there are elite monster zones and wild regions you can grind in. There are plenty of those scattered around. Lin listened, steadying himself. He understood what Director Chu was implying. The quickest path would be the riskiest, but the opportunity was there if he was willing to take it. There are a lot of people in those spots, and territorial disputes are common, Director Chu continued. Another option is to hunt the field bosses. They give a ton of experience, often more than dungeon bosses, and can drop top-tier gear. The problem is that those field bosses are basically leased out to the major guilds. If you don't know the guild's schedules, you won't even know when they respawn. Chu rattled off a string of other suggestions: travel to contested borderlands, stake out common spawn points, team up for ambushes. But he made one point clear. Aside from the reliable method of grinding early dungeons, most of these strategies are hit or miss. They work well enough for ordinary players, but they weren't really aimed at someone like Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu heard him out politely. He knew most of it wouldn't apply to him, but he kept quiet and listened. Useless information could still be useful someday. For example, Chu's mention of the mysterious cross-border zones was something Lin Moyu had never even heard of before. Chu went on for 10 minutes without stopping. When Lin Moyu still didn't reply, Chu finally lost his composure. Master Baishan was right. You're really a man of few words. He threw up his hands. Fine, I give up. I won't tease you anymore. Give me your ID card, and I'll take care of the formalities. Lin Moyu handed over his ID. Director Chu processed the paperwork quickly, then handed him a slightly unusual-looking teleportation stone. This is a teleportation stone for the dungeon hall, he explained. You can use it to teleport to the school's dungeon hall. If you want to run dungeons, that's where you go. He added, the stone costs 1,000 points. We've deducted it from your points card. Everything in college is a transaction. If you want something, you pay for it, with labor, with points, or with coins. There are no freebies. After leaving the academic affairs office, Lin Moyu's first thought was to contact Ning Yi. She had promised to help him level up, and he was counting on that. His communicator buzzed with a reply almost immediately. The message from Ning Yi read, I'm tied up and will be away for a few days. Contact me when I get back. Chapter 74, Dungeon Palace. Spend a little, achieve a lot. Ning Yi was gone, probably on a mission again. When Lin Moyu first met her, she'd been away on a job as well, so he didn't find it surprising. At Xiajing Academy, everyone was busy. No one ever seemed to have free time. In a few days, the new students would arrive, and the place would get even more hectic. Lin Moyu lingered without activating the teleportation stone. Instead, he opened the message Bai Yuan had sent him. Requirements for admission to the Creation Seminary. Level over 30. He felt a jolt. Over level 30? He murmured. Bai Yuan's information made it clear that someone had been admitted to the Creation Seminary only 3 or 4 months after entering the academy. That meant they had jumped from level 16 to level 30 in that short span. The speed was staggering. Normally, it took roughly a year just to go from level 20 to level 30, unless someone had cleared a nightmare-level dungeon solo, something almost nobody managed. Lin Moyu still couldn't figure out how Lin Mohan had upgraded. He'd have to ask him the next time he saw him. He scanned the rest of the requirements. The second one caught his eye. Clear the level 30 dungeon abyss front on Hell difficulty. That sounded brutal. Hell difficulty was a whole step above Nightmare. You needed everything in order: class compatibility, mental fortitude, skills, gear. Ordinary parties didn't even try these. Only top-tier, highly coordinated teams could hope to survive it. Lin Moyu smiled to himself. When I'm level 30, maybe I'll try to solo it. He'd never seriously considered assembling a team. For now, solo was the simplest option. The third requirement was to reach 1,000 contribution points. Contribution points weren't just generic experience. They were earned by completing assignments for the school or doing things that benefited it. Trials like the Mermaid Island event would grant some, but how many points it would give was still unknown. Contribution points were essential for getting into a top university. Zhang Taotao had been clear about that. The trials mattered. If Lin Moyu wanted a place at the top academy, she had to earn enough contribution points. There were only 3 requirements listed, short, but none of them were simple. After copying them down, Lin Moyu touched the teleportation stone. A ringing filled her ears, a burst of sounds that felt oddly lively. The notices read, Boneyard Dungeon, normal difficulty. Missing a mage around level 25, fire magic proficiency preferred. Blood Fighting Orc Legion Dungeon, nightmare difficulty. Missing a healer, recommended level 22 to 25. Requires strong healing skills and a full set of bronze equipment. Tower of Darkness, nightmare difficulty. Requires a knight above level 30, equipped with a full set of silver gear and able to cast Team Blessing buffing abilities. The dungeon hall itself was crowded and noisy, like a busy market, and Lin Moyu felt a little uneasy. The hall was inside the school, but it wasn't reachable by ordinary means. Entry wasn't free. You had to pass the Academic Affairs Office's review and then buy a special teleportation stone for 1,000 points before you were even eligible to go inside. Lin Moyu had expected the dungeon hall to be solemn and sacred. Instead, it looked like a vegetable market. Students were everywhere, sitting on the floor with handmade signs, jotting down requirements and loudly recruiting teammates. Voices called out from every direction, trading names, levels, and party roles, so similar to the entrances of ordinary dungeons that Lin Moyu briefly wondered if he had come to the wrong place. Beyond the crowd, a huge palace rose up, the dungeon hall proper. He stepped past the students and into it. The clamor fell away the moment he crossed the threshold. Inside, people still spoke, but their voices dropped to hushed tones. A faint, almost mechanical hum seemed to wrap the room, pressing softly against his ears. Scattered through every corner of the hall were dungeon entrances. RL pool-shaped portals swirling with light. A strange chorus drifted from the rows of dungeon entrances. Each portal emitted its own tone, different for every instance, and with hundreds of openings, the sounds braided together into an oddly dissonant hum. At the mouth of every instance sat a crystal orb. The orb displayed all the usual information: dungeon name, level requirements, entry rules, cooldown time, and so on. Above each vortex-like gateway hung a curtain of light, and the history and record of that dungeon were written across it like a glowing placard. Back when he had been at Shihai No. 1 Middle School, Lin Moyu already knew that Empire-level dungeon resources existed in abundance. He hadn't expected Xiajing Academy to possess so many as well. In this world, there were countless instances, so it made sense that the Empire's premier school would guard whole layers of them. After all, prodigies like Baishan had come from Xiajing Academy. More than half of the Shenxia Empire's top experts were its alumni. Lin Moyu scanned the light curtain. It only showed the top 3 entries, and only for the highest difficulty available. If a dungeon offered a Hell mode, the leaderboard listed the top 3 Hell clear times. If its hardest setting was Nightmare, then the top 3 Nightmare runs would appear. Each entry recorded the clear time and the names of the team members, along with each player's level, class, and other relevant information. That data doubled as a strategy guide. Teams about to attempt the dungeon could study the recorded runs and copy their setups. After testing other teams' approaches again and again, Lin Moyu had worked out a very effective configuration of her own. Of course, if someone else found a better setup and set a new record, all the better. The system encouraged competition. Teams would fight for first place, and appearing on the dungeon leaderboard was a real honor. "Classmate," a soft voice came from behind her. Lin Moyu turned and saw a young woman, perhaps in her early 20s, hesitating there. The girl took a deep breath and mustered her courage. "Hello, classmate. This your first time in the dungeon hall?" Lin Moyu nodded. "My name's Shuhan," she said. "I can show you around the dungeon hall." Nothing in Xiajing Academy was free. If you wanted something, you had to pay for it. Lin Moyu blinked. "Huh?" 100 points, Shuhan answered at once. She sounded a little nervous, like this was her first time making a proposition. 70 would be fine, too, she hurried on, then fumbled for reassurance. "No, it's really only 100, it's not much." Lin Moyu hesitated. She knew points weren't easy to come by. 100 was nothing to scoff at. Still, the offer was too useful to pass up. After a moment she nodded and transferred the 100 points to Shuhan. After the points were awarded, Shuhan let out a long, relieved sigh and gave a grateful smile. "Thanks, classmate." The dungeon hall's main function is to serve as a hub. Each doorway leads to a different dungeon, he explained. In total, there are 95 instances. He went on to break them down. 2 of them are under level 20, 18 range from level 20 to 30, and 20 are from level 30 to 40. The remainder, 52, are instances from level 40 up to 70. Besides those, there are 2 large instances and 1 super large instance. He clarified the terms for Lin Moyu. A large dungeon supports more than 40 people. A super large dungeon is what you'd call a 100-player dungeon. Lin Moyu asked, "What about dungeons above level 70? Shuhan shook his head. "Those aren't in the hall." Lin Moyu nodded in understanding. She guessed that anything above level 70 would be managed directly by the school and wouldn't be left open for anyone to enter. The materials and equipment inside would be too valuable to hand out casually. Shuhan went on to describe the other functions of the dungeon hall. To Lin Moyu, this was mostly basic information. He could have figured it out on his own sooner or later. Still, having some Eon explain it would save him time. The briefing cost only 100 points. With over 130,000 points in his account, that was nothing. Shuhan outlined the rules. Each dungeon has a corresponding completion record. If you set a new record, you get a reward. Entry requirements vary. Most dungeons demand a minimum level, but some require an average party level. Others have special conditions. They might check the highest level or the lowest level in your team. Dungeons come in many types, and their requirements differ, Shuhan added. "Is there any dungeon with no level requirement?" Lin Moyu asked. Shuhan shook his head. There used to be, but someone died in one later. It was too dangerous, so they removed it. The school has set level requirements. If you don't meet the required level, you're not allowed in. There are still plenty of wild dungeons with no level limits, someone replied. Lin Moyu understood the point. There was a real difference between entering a dungeon through the Academy's dungeon hall and stumbling into a wild dungeon, and it came down to safety. The Academy's instance dungeons let you pull out at any time. If danger appears, you can choose to withdraw. That built-in safety net made the places far less lethal. Short of being one-shot, a student was unlikely to die. In other words, the tuition and fees weren't wasted. From the tiered level restrictions on instances to the way ranking competitions were organized, Lin Moyu could see the Academy's intention: train students from low-level to high-level content while keeping them safe. Every student accepted into Xiajing Academy was a talent. Losing even one would be a serious blow, so security mattered. That's why the Academy strictly specified which levels could enter which instances. Don't be overambitious. Shuhan paid the fee and explained everything carefully. Lin Moyu couldn't help feeling like a small expenditure had bought a big advantage. 100 points suddenly seemed very worthwhile. As Shuhan talked, she learned the rules for the dungeon hall. Beyond meeting a dungeon's own entry requirements, you also have to pay points to enter. At Xiajing Academy, practically everything runs on points, and dungeons are no exception. The higher the dungeon level, the more points it costs. You can even spend points to remove a dungeon's cooldown, so even without a cooldown amulet, you can repeat a dungeon as long as you have enough points. Lin Moyu was pleasantly surprised. This would definitely speed up her level progression. Shuhan then led her to the center of the dungeon hall, where a cluster of crystal orbs had been arranged. Shuhan explained, "This is the dungeon hall's task center and team recruitment center. The task center lists all kinds of jobs, mainly gathering materials, equipment, and special items from different dungeons. You can complete those tasks for points, or you can post your own tasks to solicit materials and props from others. The team recruitment center is for forming parties. You can post a recruitment notice or join a team that's already looking for members. Both functions are very useful, but everything depends on points. Posting tasks costs points, and the points you earn from completing tasks are subject to a commission. Posting a team recruitment notice also costs points, but joining a team doesn't. At Xiajing Academy, points are the hard currency. You can't do without them." After more than half an hour, Shuhan had finished briefing Lin Moyu on how the dungeon hall worked. "Any other questions, student?" At that moment, Lin Moyu's communicator buzzed. A notification popped up. He had just received 50 contribution points, the reward for the Mermaid Island trial. He still had very few points, nowhere near the 1,000 contribution points needed to join Chuangshan Academy. "How do you earn contribution points?" Lin Moyu asked. Shuhan explained, "There aren't many ways. One is to take part in the trials the school organizes. Another is to complete tasks the school assigns." "In the mission center," Shuhan continued, "some missions are issued directly by the school. Finish those and you'll earn contribution points. But those tasks are very popular," he added. "They're snapped up and completed almost as soon as they're posted. Everyone wants contribution points, and you need them to join the academy." Lin Moyu checked the mission center for himself. There were indeed a number of school-issued tasks, but the rewards were small, typically 2 or 3 points, and at most 10 points for the largest ones. Lin Moyu felt a jolt when he realized he'd gotten 50 contribution points. That was a lot. He guessed Zhang Tao Tao and the others probably hadn't scored more than he did. The communicator buzzed. When it connected, a high, excited voice rushed out. "Moyu, how many contribution points did you get?" "I got 20. I did so well this time." "Sister Taozi scored 30. Another voice chimed in happily. Lin Moyu answered quietly, 50. There was an immediate chorus of disbelief and excitement. "No way. Taozi was right. You must be top this time. 50 at once? You've been hogging all the best missions. There'll be trial missions later. We have to team up with you. I'm totally riding your coattails." Duan Gao jabbered on for a moment, then finally hung up. Shuhan just stared, dumbfounded. Even a trial mission could be worth 50 points? Contribution points were notoriously hard to come by. Most trial missions only gave 5 or 10. He wasn't the only one stunned. Everyone nearby was silent, trying to process how one mission could be worth so much. Unless your performance is outstanding, you might get 20 points at most. 50 at once? I've never heard of that, unless it's an advanced trial mission after second rank, someone murmured. No way that's real, and he doesn't even look a high level. Lin Moyu ignored the whispers and turned to Shu Han. Thank you. Worth every one of the 100 points, Shu Han said, then waved him off. You paid for it, so you're welcome. Are you going to form a party and run the dungeon now? Lin Moyu entered the instance, Mutant Forest, level 17. The instance was open to professions between levels 15 and 19. In the dungeon hall there were only 2 low-level instances under level 20, and Mutant Forest was one of them. It cost 10 points to enter, with an option to pay 40 points to remove the dungeon's cooldown. The best clear time on record was 58 minutes, set 3 years ago by a 5-person team, a knight, a prophet, and 3 mages, all level 19. They were running a full set of bronze gear. With 3 damage dealers in perfect sync, the team had been clearing the dungeon at blistering speed, a record that had stood unchallenged for 3 years. The second place time was 1 hour 17 minutes, nearly 20 minutes slower than theirs. Lin Moyu spent 10 contribution points and selected the nightmare difficulty, then stepped into the dungeon. The moment he queued, the hall exploded with reaction. People craned their necks, trying to see what had been triggered. Wait, I thought it was a world boss or something, one player muttered. It's just some little thing below level 20, another scoffed. Look at him, putting on a big show like he's taming a wolf. Isn't a trial mission only worth 50 contribution points? That's insane. Someone else frowned. No way one trial nets that much. They whispered and laughed among themselves. Nobody believed Lin Moyu's claim that a single trial would grant 50 points. To them, running a low-level dungeon alone on Nightmare was either a pointless stunt or a bold recipe for humiliation. He's so brave going in solo, one spectator said derisively. He'll come crawling out dumbfounded in a minute, another added. They watched the dungeon entrance with amused anticipation, certain the solo player would either die or be carried out, embarrassed. Shu Han couldn't dismiss Lin Moyu's words as nonsense. There was something about him that felt off in a good way, brimming with self-confidence, the sort of person who seemed born to plan. Maybe he really did know what he was talking about. The thought surprised her. 50 contribution points. What kind of performance could possibly earn that? She didn't even want to imagine it. Lin Moyu, meanwhile, found himself standing at the edge of an ancient forest near Luoqian Beach. A chill wind sifted through the canopy, sending leaves rattling. Underfoot was a thick carpet of dead foliage, the kind that suggested no human had crossed here for years. Occasionally a distant, bone-deep roar echoed from inside, a reminder of the dangers within. From where he stood, he could see animals moving in the gloom. This was a mutant forest, the sort twisted by some mysterious force, so the creatures within had become monstrous. There were bears and tigers and wolves, along with other, more indistinct horrors. Hidden in the underbrush lurked snakes and mutated insects ready to strike. An inattentive traveler could easily be ambushed. Break records, get rewarded, Lin Moyu murmured to himself, pausing to take it all in. A score of skeleton warriors appeared with a distinctive metallic clicking. There were 108 of them in total, not an uncommon number these days. The skeletons that had been wounded by the Mermaid Queen had already fully recovered. Let's go, Sunluza ordered. The skeletons surged into the mutant forest with a single-minded rhythm, their bones striking together like 1,000 tiny hammers. Sunluza moved straight in with them. Using her detection technique, she scanned the nearest threats, 2 enhanced elite monsters. Mutated Grizzly, enhanced elite monster, level 17, power 1400, agility 1000, spirit 500, physique. Skill, Roaring Attack Mutated White Tiger, enhanced elite monster, level 18, power 1700, agility 1500, spirit 400, physique 1500, skill, Roar. Compared to the skeleton's combined 4-dimensional attribute, a staggering 5,400, These beasts were outmatched. The skeletons poured in like predators among sheep. The fight was over almost immediately. Each monster fell after at most 3 sword strikes. Killed mutated grizzly, experience, loot, animal skin 5. Killed mutated white tiger, level 18, experience 7,000. Loot, animal skin 4. The screen refreshed, displaying the results of the sweep. The experience value crept upward. A system message blinked on the screen. Upon entering the dungeon, experience 17, 32.57%. I wondered how many corpses would be counted toward the experience total once the dungeon was cleared. Chapter 76, Super Hard Turtle, New Record. Lin Moyu trailed behind the skeleton army as they moved through the dangerous mutant forest. Monsters were everywhere, but so spread out that he didn't bother trying to pull groups together. It was faster to kill them on the spot. He didn't use complicated 3-skill combos. 2 quick knife strikes were enough. Combat was a breeze. Even when Lin Moyu strolled, he had trouble keeping up with the skeleton warriors. He almost had to jog to match their pace. Huh? No boss-level monsters in this dungeon? He wondered. They pushed forward without ever encountering a boss. The only fights were against 2 packs of wolves. The skeletons swarmed them and tore them apart before Lin could even get there to loot the corpses. In Lin Moyu's opinion, this dungeon was easier than the Shihai mine, but the map was huge and disorienting. He nearly got lost several times. After 30 minutes of winding through the tunnels, they finally reached the end of the dungeon, Area 5 of 83. On the far side of the wide pool, a number of huge beasts lay dozing at the water's edge. Wolves, dogs, snakes. Lin Moyu had never seen a pack like this before. Mingled in with the usual predators were massive tigers and bears. It looked impossible. Mutated, ferocious beasts gathering together. Could they be coordinating? Could there be some sort of intelligence behind this? 2 bears and 2 tigers had formed an odd little group. The animals were enormous. The bears in particular would have towered over 5 meters when they rose to their hind legs. Lin Moyu wasn't impressed. To him, they were nothing more than experience to be gained. Before he could make a move, the skeleton warriors surged forward without hesitation. There was no flourish or finesse, just a brutal, straightforward onslaught. Lin didn't even have time to activate his detection technique. The skeleton's blade had already felled a bear and a tiger. With a thunderous splash, a column of water shot up from the pool. A massive turtle-like beast hauled itself out, its broad back sheathed in a thick carapace that covered its body like living armor. The tortoise's shell alone was over 5 meters across. Enormous. Its jaws gaped, rows of razor-sharp fangs glinting. From the rear unfurled a long whip-like tail studded with vicious barbs. With a low, savage growl, it hauled itself out of the pool. A system window hovered in Lin Moyu's vision, labeling the creature. Mutated flood turtle, leader-class monster. Level 19, power 4,000, agility 500, spirit 500, physique 7,000, skills, bite, sweep, super defense. That physique was ridiculous, far exceeding a skeleton warrior's, even higher than the level 24 mermaid queen. In short, its vitality and defenses were enormous. Its raw strength lagged a little behind, but not enough to be ignored. It could still smash through skeletons with ease. By the time Lin Moyu finished reading, the skeleton warriors had already closed in. A huge blade came down on the tortoise's shell with a metallic clang. The turtle snapped at one skeleton with crushing jaws, while in the same instant, its thorned tail cracked across another like a giant whip. The size difference between the two was enormous. The mutant flood turtle's tail flashed out and slammed into one of the skeleton warriors. It wasn't wounded, but the blow still sent it flying. The force was just that great. The tail usually curled inside the shell, but when it lashed out, it extended fully, easily 10 meters long. A single sweep could take several skeletons with it. One skeleton scrambled onto the turtle's back and hacked at the shell with a machete, but the creature's physique was enormous. Its defense and vitality were off the charts. The blows barely left a mark. Lin Moyu watched and shook his head. Agility and spirit are too low, he muttered. All the strength in the world won't help if you can't land a hit. His palm glowed red. Skill, slow curse. A red light unfurled like a net and descended over the turtle, leaving a pattern of glowing shackles across its D. Under the curse, its speed collapsed. Its attack rate slowed dramatically. The once fervent lashes lost their precision, and the turtle seemed to realize it was in a bad spot. With a sheer instinctive motion, it pulled itself entirely back into its shell. A shimmer ran across the creature as a skill activated, super defense. In the dim light, Lin Moyu watched, astonished, as its wounds knit together at an alarming rate. Earlier, the skeleton warrior had managed to chip away at it. Now the skeleton couldn't even scratch the hide. Even the damage it had already taken was vanishing. Massive base stats and a defensive skill. At this moment, the mutated turtle had become an iron wall. I must have missed something, Lin Moyu muttered. If his own skeleton warrior couldn't dent it, then melee and bows were useless. How had the other teams cleared the dungeon? Suddenly, it clicked. The top 3 teams had been composed entirely of magic classes. No melee, no archers. The thing must be vulnerable to elemental attacks. Flame flickered into Lin Moyu's palm. Skill, Soul Flame. At once a blaze sprang up on the crown of the mutated turtle's shell and sank like a hot spear into its body. The normally motionless monster convulsed violently and let out a bone-rattling scream. In the end, Lin Moyu was still a mage, but he fought like something more. Between the raw physical power of the skeleton warrior at his command and his own potent magic, he was lethal. The soul flame he used boosted his mental attack by a full 20 levels and ignored the enemy's defenses, far deadlier than the elemental strikes a pure element mage could dish out. Seeing how effective it was, Lin Moyu kept casting the soul flame. The mutated turtle screamed, its enormous shell quivering as it tried to rush him. The skeleton warrior planted itself firmly in the way and refused to give it an opening. When the turtle thrust out its head and forelimbs, the skeleton seized the moment to slip around the shell and strike at the exposed parts. Red light ignited along the skeleton's broadswords, their skills unleashed, and flesh and blood sprayed with each blow. The mutated creature's screams grew even more frantic. Lin Moyu cast Soul Flame again and again, feeling his spirit energy drain fast. He fished out a bottle of minor spirit potion and poured it down his throat, instantly restoring his spirit power so he could keep the assault going. The mutant turtle's vitality was overwhelming. Lin Moyu realized that even if he poured out all his mental strength, they still might not be able to finish it, and they'd be back where they started. Then an idea struck him. Flip it over. On his command, the skeleton warriors sprang into action. They worked in unison, gathering their strength and heaving with a single, explosive effort. With a thunderous crash, the turtle was overturned, its soft, unarmored belly exposed. Without the protection of its shell, the skeletons finally had something to aim at. Each strike tore into the turtle's flesh, doing far more damage than before. The mutant turtle thrashed and flailed, trying frantically to right itself, but it simply couldn't. Blood spilled across the ground, staining the pond red. Its struggles grew weaker by the second. After 3 minutes of relentless assault, the mutant turtle went still. Mutant turtle defeated, experience 150. Loot obtained, bronze tier weapon, flood turtle gloves. Loot obtained, bronze tier armor, heavy turtle armor. Loot obtained, low-grade monster crystal core. Item found, flood turtle gloves. Strength plus 20, constitution plus 20, boxer type skill power 6%, usable at level 12+. Item found, flood tortoise heavy armor, bronze. Constitution 30, defense system skill power 6%, usable at level 12+. 2 bronze drops flashed into Lin Moyu's inventory. He glanced at them, then tucked them away without a second thought. When the battle ended, his experience had jumped from 32.7% to 67%, almost a 35% gain. One more clear of the dungeon, and he'd hit level 18. The moment Lin Moyu finished off the mutant turtle, a bell pealed through the dungeon hall, 3 clear tolls that echoed into every corner. Players in and out of the chamber heard it instantly. "Someone just set a new dungeon record," someone called. "It's been ages since there was a new record," another voice answered. "Go see who it was. I want to know which boss was taken down so I can tag along next time. I didn't see any elite team enter the hall earlier. That's weird." The chatter died down as curiosity took over. Doors opened and people spilled into the hall, crowding toward the center to find out who had forced the bell and made the record. Fortunately, the hall was large enough that even with hundreds of people inside, it still felt roomy. A luminous curtain of light shimmered over the projected replica of the mutated forest, drawing everyone's attention. A brand new record had just appeared on the display. Chapter 77. No one can break it in 100 years. There were hundreds of eyes fixed on the arena, and no one dared to accept what the display was showing. 100 throats swallowed in unison. Someone jabbed a finger at the holographic record board, disbelief written all over their face. Is this real? He soloed the Nightmare Dungeon. Even if it's only a level 17, low-tier Nightmare Dungeon, nobody solos that. Not alone. That's not the worst part. He finished in 50 minutes, 9 minutes faster than the old record. How did he possibly do that? They scanned the player information. The name was Lin Moyu, and the class listed beneath it caught everyone off guard. He's a Necromancer? What kind of class is that? I've never seen one before. I haven't either. It must be a new profession. Or legendary. Maybe it's some special class only a few people have. Rumors and guesses buzzed through the crowd, growing louder by the second. People exchanged skeptical looks. The feat simply didn't fit with what they knew about the dungeon. A level 17 nightmare wasn't meant to be a one-man job, let alone a new record. Then Lin Moyu stepped out through the instance exit. A hush fell over the crowd, instantly replaced by a barrage of questions and demands. There he is! He's out! Student, how did you do it? How did you manage to solo it and break the record? Boss, can I join you on your next run? Voices clamored from all directions. Some implored for tips, others wanted to be taken on as followers. Lin Moyu stood calm amid the chaos, the lone figure that had just rewritten what everyone thought was impossible. Lin Moyu found himself surrounded by a small crowd. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth as he glanced up and saw the new record blinking on the HUD. He knew exactly what had happened. He spent some points to skip the cooldown, then stepped back into the dungeon without hesitation. Going in again? Someone asked. Solo again? Another voice piped up. Why keep farming alone? Isn't he tired? A third complained. Don't swarm him. He'll be scared. He's only level 17 after all. Yeah, and someone here's level 30. He just called him a big boss and begged to carry him. So shameless. After a few more murmurs, most of the onlookers drifted away. Shuhan lingered at the edge of the crowd, still looking stunned. That was incredible, she murmured. Is it true he got 50 contribution points in the trial? A moment after he re-entered the instance, Lin Moyu's communicator buzzed. A system notification appeared. Create a new record in Mutated Forest Dungeon. Reward 1,000 points, 5 contribution points. One time only. Lin Moyu blinked in surprise. So breaking a dungeon record handed out not only points but also contribution. Too bad it was a one-shot reward. That made sense, otherwise people would find ways to game the system. Experienced teams could shave off seconds at a time, keep setting new records, and rack up contribution points. The school couldn't allow that loophole to exist. Still, getting contribution points was a nice bonus. Lin Moyu just wanted one thing, to level up. Plain and simple. The 108 skeletons surged forward. Like tigers among sheep, they swept through the forest's beasts and monsters. With the benefit of last time's experience, they didn't get lost and moved much faster. In barely 20 minutes, Lin Moyu reached the end of the dungeon. The skeletons charged ahead, and 4 more corpses lay unmoving beside the pool. A column of water shot into the air as the mutated boss turtle began to crawl out. Then, boom, 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 4 deafening blasts rang out. Skill, corpse burst. The bursts struck with surgical precision. The mutated turtle died before it could fully emerge from the water. Water exploded into the air in a dozen geysers as the pool suddenly drew back, leaving a deep pit and the mutated turtle sprawling on the ground, bruised and battered. Flip it over, I ordered. The skeletons I'd been gathering surged forward, an army no one had ever seen, used like this before. No class should be able to field so many summons. Given the turtle's size and weight, it should have been impossible to overturn it. But the plan worked. With a roar, the beast was hauled onto its back, its legs thrashing as its soft underside was exposed. From the moment it climbed out of the pool, its fate had been sealed. They swarmed in and began to strike. Frenzied strike. The skeleton's weapons blurred. A pair of huge blades, rimmed with a sickly red glow, came down on the turtle's belly. blood geysered up like a fountain. I couldn't tell if this felt smoother than the last time. My head had been rattled by the corpse's explosion, and then the skeletons hit with everything they had. In less than a minute, the mutated turtle was dead. Kill the mutated turtle. Experience obtained. Bronze tier weapon. Obtained low-level monster crystal nucleus. Turtle bow, bronze. Agility plus 40. Increases bow skill power by 6%. Usable at level 12 and above. The dungeon hall bell rang again. People who had only just walked out moments earlier were sprinting back in, faces flushed and voices buzzing. What's going on? A new record? Still the mutant forest? And the time got better again? No way. This can't be real. I'll pass out. Somebody tell me this isn't true. This kind of result is impossible. A hush fell as the announcement scrolled across the central board. New record. 24 minutes, 32 seconds. Shock rippled through the crowd. They weren't just talking about breaking the 30-minute barrier. Whoever had done this had ripped the old record to shreds, dipping below the 25-minute mark. The previous best, 58 minutes, had stood for over 3 years. It had been set by a 5-person team with near-perfect synergy and equipment. Everyone had assumed it would last forever. That record was untouchable, someone said. They were practically an optimized machine. I wouldn't have bet on anyone breaking it in 100 years. 100 years? Try 500, another scoffed. No one could. Then a voice, small at first and then louder as the realization spread. Lin Moyu did it, solo. There's no way anyone could survive that, one voice said. Do you think he'll run other dungeons to set new records? Another asked. It's very possible. I still don't understand how he handled that old turtle boss at the end of the mutant forest dungeon. How did he do it? The turtle's defenses are ridiculous, the first replied. Almost immune to physical attacks, only elemental damage works. He's a necromancer, the second said. So knowing elemental attacks isn't surprising. It's just how fast he is. When I ran that copy before, it took me an hour just to deal with the turtle. It's impressive. I don't know how he managed it. At that moment, Lin Moyu's whole body shimmered. As the mutated turtle collapsed, he finally leveled up, reaching level 18. Since changing jobs, he had shot up the ranks in no time. In under half a day, he'd gone from level 1 to 18. His attributes had jumped again. The skeleton warrior's combined stats had climbed to 5,800. After completing these 2 dungeons, Lin Moyu could clearly see the skeleton warrior's weakness. Its physical attacks were devastating, but its approach was too one-dimensional. Monsters with extremely high physical defense ruined the skeleton warrior's usefulness. Against them, the summoned skeletons were greatly weakened. Sometimes they were practically useless. The Soul Flame skill could make up for some of that shortfall, but it wasn't efficient enough against bosses, and its use was constrained by a finite energy pool. Necromancers couldn't rely on summons alone. Lin Moyu knew he needed more skills. Upgrade first, he decided. When I hit level 20, I'll buy skill scrolls and try to unlock new abilities. Before level 20, skill scrolls had a much lower chance of working, especially for higher tier spells, so there was no point experimenting now. His profession was unusually isolated. Unlike other classes, there were no trainers, established learning methods, no predecessors to consult. He was the first necromancer, and he had no reference for what skills even existed. That meant his only real option was brute force. Buy as many skill scrolls as possible and hope to discover everything. Luckily, basic skill scrolls weren't expensive at the start of the game. Buying them in bulk was feasible, so he could save up, hit level 20, and then throw a large batch at the problem in one go. When it came to intermediate skill scrolls, the price had shot up to 10 million, enough to make him flinch. Lin Moyu told himself, take it one step at a time, don't get ahead of yourself. He appeared outside the dungeon entrance and found himself surrounded again, but the atmosphere this time was much calmer than before. Players pressed in politely, asking how he'd beaten the mutant turtle. How did you take it down so fast? Any tips to share? Several of them asked. Lin Moyu replied casually, just flip it over. Flip it over? A few faces lit up as the idea sank in. Why didn't I think of that? The tortoise has a hard shell, but its belly is soft. Yeah, just tip it onto its back. You're brilliant, Lin Moyu. Nice thinking. While they continued to trade amazed chatter and compliments, Lin Moyu walked on toward the next dungeon. Level 20. Spider Lair. Entry requirements, levels 18 to 22, minimum 18, maximum 22. Chapter 78. Leveling Holy Land, Material Holy Land. Below level 20, there are only two dungeons, the Mutant Forest and the Spider Lair. The Mutant Forest is a level 17 dungeon with an entry range of 15 to 19, while the Spider Lair is level 20 and requires levels 18 to 22 to enter. From just these two examples, it's clear the school enforces strict level limits on dungeons, which in turn creates a precise, effective system for training students. As students gain levels and combat experience, those restrictions are gradually relaxed. Nightmare difficulty. Enter instance. Spending 10 entry points, Lin Moyu stepped into the dungeon. Wind threaded through the cavern like the cry of a newborn, gusting in fits and starts until the noise seemed to hang in the air, eerie and unsettling. The cave was almost pitch black. Lin Moyu could barely make out anything with his sight alone. A small flame kindled in his palm, a soul flame that hovered without a source, serving only to illuminate. It was weak, enough to light a few feet around him, but leaving most of the tunnel swallowed by shadow. Lin Moyu took in his surroundings at a glance. Narrow rock walls hemmed them in, and only a single corridor, barely wide enough for two people to walk side by side, led off into the unknown. The stone was pitted with holes, from thumb-sized nicks to fist-wide cavities, and thick curtains of spider silk hung from the ceiling, whispering and trembling in the draft like 1,000 tiny legs. This was the Spider Lair, a world of spiders. Skeleton warriors poured out into the passage, the dark soul flame they carried serving as crude torches and throwing flickering shadows across the walls. The tunnels twisted and branched in maddening complexity, the skeletons fanned out, racing through the caverns. In his mind, a map began to unfurl, a constantly expanding network of chambers, each connected to others, some with multiple exits, weaving together into a honeycomb-like maze that stretched in every direction. The skeleton warriors fanned out and advanced in separate directions. Before long, one of them ran straight into a monster, and combat notifications began to pop up over and over. Kill level 20 Scarlet Spider. Experience Spider Silk 5. Kill level 19 Long-Haired Spiders. Experience Get Spider Silk 4. As the messages kept appearing, the skeletons were drawn into fights one after another, and the pace of progress through the map slowed dramatically. Judging by the experience rewards, these weren't ordinary monsters, but enhanced elites. The encounters were thick and frequent. The skeletons were being attacked every few steps. Spiders in particular hid above cave passages and struck as soon as prey passed beneath them. Lin Moyu picked his way along a route the summons had already cleared. It was his first time in this type of instance, so he moved cautiously. Then, without warning, a crackling sound whispered in his ear. In the dim light, tiny spiders peeled away from the rock walls and began crawling toward him. Each one was smaller than a fist, but they came in a press, dozens, then hundreds, swarming out until the entire cave seemed covered. Within moments, they had surrounded Lin Moyu. Power 200. Agility, Physique, Skill 100. It was a run-of-the-mill monster, actually weaker than most level 18 creatures. What made them dangerous was the number. They came in swarms, like ants, and could be killed just as easily. Lin Moyu guessed that at least 2 of the top 3 teams in the Spider Lair leaderboard must be staffed with professional mages. Only mages had the sort of wide-area spells needed to deal with an infestation like this. He glanced at the hall's records. There were 2 entries for Spider Lair and for the Mutant Forest, and both top spots were held by the same team. The best clear time was about 1 hour and 12 minutes, a record that had stood for 3 years. The small soul flame that always danced in his palm leapt free. It sailed across the damp air and struck one of the little spiders. With the 20-fold amplification Lin Moyu had invested, the soul flame was lethal even against standard foes of this level. The little spider's physique was only 200, considerably weaker than a typical level 18 monster, and the inferno seared it from existence in an instant. It let out a high, wet scream and died. The flame winked out, and the tiny cavern dropped into an oppressive pitch-black silence. Then, from deeper inside the lair, a resonant crash rolled through the tunnels. Boom! A violent explosion tore through the cave, a deafening boom that reverberated across the spider nest. The whole nest trembled and cracked, waking countless sleeping spiders. By the time the skeleton warriors arrived, the little spiders were already pouring out. 2 more blasts shook the cavern as if it were collapsing. When Lin Moyu's palm interface flashed again, there wasn't a single living spider left in the cave. Hundreds of messages flooded his view. Kill a level 18 spider, E plus 500. Kill a level 18 spider. Obtain spider silk Quan. Each tiny spider only granted 500 experience, but small things add up. 20 of them equaled a level 18 enhanced elite monster. In that last wave, there had been at least 300 to 400 little spiders, equivalent to killing more than 20 enhanced elites at once. It was an enormous haul. Lin Moyu's eyes shone, and even Gujing Bubo, who rarely showed joy, couldn't hide a pleased expression. He'd already noticed that the caves housing the skeleton warriors were infested with these tiny spiders. The little spiders had all been drawn out by the explosion a moment ago. An experience hotspot. That was Lin Moyu's first thought. Then his expression shifted. His skeleton warrior was taking damage. Tiny spiders were crawling all over the bones, each one biting with pinprick wounds that did almost no damage on their own, but there were dozens of them, moving so fast the skeleton's vitality was bleeding away. It was the old proverb come to life. Too many ants can kill an elephant. When Lin Moyu had switched classes earlier, he'd seen the skeleton warrior tear a dragon apart. That combat had changed its threat profile, and now, by chance, the swarm had latched onto it. He immediately tried to recall the summon, but the spiders had it so thoroughly covered that it wouldn't return. The skeleton had no area attacks. When it swung its great blade, it could only cut down 1 or 2 spiders at best, a drop in the ocean. "Return!" Lin Moyu barked. Even if he couldn't pull it back into his hand, he hoped at least it would fall back and regroup. "If you don't leave, you'll eventually be eaten by the little spiders in the dry zone." A skeleton warrior stumbled back, its bones crawling with spiders. Behind it surged an endless tide, tiny spiders and a number of stronger, enhanced elites. Lin Moyu's summoned skeletons had been fighting through dungeons over and over, pressing forward relentlessly and beheading monsters as easily as slicing melons. They'd never been driven to a shameful retreat before. This was the first time Lin had been forced to pull back like this. The more he watched, the more he realized how simple the skeleton warrior really was. Its attributes were high, but its shortcomings were glaring. Its capabilities were too limited. All Lin could do was hope the creature learned new skills at level 20. Another skeleton came into view. Lin Moyu raised his palm and activated the skill. Corpse explosion. Boom! The corpse detonated in a violent blast, wiping the spiders off the skeleton's bones. More skeletons moved forward, and more explosions followed, chain after chain. The whole spider nest trembled as if on the verge of collapse. Lin kept triggering corpse explosions, clearing a path through the swarms. With each blast, the experience points poured in, skyrocketing like a rocket. The dungeon hall buzzed with conversation as a group of players watched Lin Moyu slip into the spider lair instance. "He won't break the record again," someone muttered. "Arid." Wang Dehao snorted. "Easy for you to say. The spider lair is a great dungeon. If I hadn't already too, I'd be doing runs non-stop." "It's a goldmine for materials," another player added. "You can make a ton of money. And the experience, each little spider gives almost nothing, but there are so many that it adds up. A lot of level 24 dungeons don't come close to the EXP you get here." "It all comes down to party composition," a veteran chimed in. "If you don't have a mage, or your mage can't use AoE spells, it's going to be slow and ridiculous." They stood outside the instance, talking and speculating, all eager to see whether Lin Moyu would set a new record. He'd already done something spectacular here before. He'd taken down Jian in that lair once, and the kill had been explosive. The corpse detonated and sent a chain reaction through the room. Loot and experience poured out like rain. Everyone waited, eyes fixed on the entrance, wondering what would happen this time. Lin Moyu showed no mercy. The skeleton fighters had stopped scattering and now moved forward in groups of 10 to clear the path. He trailed them closely. Whenever a little spider appeared, he charged it instantly, and the creature's body ruptured at his blow. He had no idea the others were taking the shortest route and slaughtering everything all the way to the end of the dungeon. He wanted to cleanse the entire instance, leave not a single monster alive. Chapter 79, Experience Holy Land, the best dungeon under level 25. Time crawled. Minutes stretched into an hour, and still Lin Moyu had not emerged. The cluster of players waiting by the spider began to murmur with disappointment. To most of them, this was nothing out of the ordinary. He'd hidden in dungeons before, hunting a new record. Now that the spider lair was the current focus, expectations were different. Even if he doesn't set another record, soloing Nightmare is still something, one player argued. Clearing that difficulty alone is pretty impressive. Sure, someone else replied, but the spider den is weird. The gap between normal and Nightmare here isn't as big as in other dungeons. At least the little spiders hit the same, they just spawn more on Nightmare. A third shrugged. Let's go. No record this time. Shuhan stood by the entrance, listening to them, but she felt otherwise. She couldn't explain why. There was no clear reason. She just had a nagging sense that something wasn't as simple as they thought. Inside the dungeon, Lin Moyu at last finished clearing every room. There are 108 caves in all, and 60 of them have small spiders. I don't know if that's fixed or random. You'll find out next time you come in. The experience bar jumped. He hit level 18 and was already 70% of the way to the next level. The dungeon granted a 70% experience bonus, and that was just his first run, while he was still figuring things out. The efficiency was impressive. Lin Moyu was certain that the next run would net him the same gains while taking less time. It was time to find the boss. He threaded his way through cave after cave, heading for the dungeon's deepest reaches. This instance of the spider lair was enormous. 790,108 caverns sprawled into a maze. If he hadn't already sketched a complete map in his head, he would have been wandering forever. It took another 10 minutes before he reached the passage that led down into the heart of the lair. The entrance was blocked by a thick curtain of webbing. Skeleton warriors hacked at it with broadswords, but the web was incredibly tough. No matter how hard they swung, it was the wrong tool for the job. If a mage had been with him, they could have cleared these webs in an instant. Instead, the lone skeleton warrior hacked at the sticky masses with a rusted blade. It took him a full 5 minutes before he finally carved a passage through the tangled silk. The webs parted with a crackle. The skeleton's bones clacked as he led the way, and Lin Moyu followed close behind. They pushed through the corridor and came at last to the heart of the dungeon, a vast cavern dominated by the instance boss. A giant spider filled the chamber. Its body measured 7 to 8 meters across, and 8 legs fanned out like massive pillars. Each leg stretched nearly 15 meters, roughly twice the length of its torso. Fine downy hairs covered the limbs and emitted a faint, ghostly glow. One could only imagine how lethal a scratch from those barbed hairs would be. They could kill or leave a victim utterly disabled. The moment Lin Moyu stepped into the cave, the Spider King was already aware of him. Lin Moyu felt his heart lurch, and the skeleton warrior slotted into action. From the shadows, the rest of his kind surged forward, a total of 112 skeleton warriors charging with broadswords raised. At the same instant, Lin Moyu's detection spell locked onto the enemy and scrolled its information across his view. Spider King, leader monster, level 21, power 5,000 agility, 3,500 spirit, 500 physique, 4,000. Skills, spitnet, acid, wind scroll. The cavern thrummed with hostile energy as the spider reared up, its luminescent hairs quivering like warning flags. The battle was about to begin. Compared with the mutated turtle, this creature was stronger and quicker, though its constitution wasn't as durable. It had 3 skills in total. Lin Moyu could handle the first 2 without trouble, but the third was a wild card, a wind tornado technique that was hard to predict. The Spider King reacted instantly, opening its maw and spitting a massive web into the air. Skill, spit net. The skeleton warriors scattered, but several failed to get out of the way and were entangled as the web dropped over them. They hacked and slashed at the silk with their great blades, but the web was unnaturally tough. It wouldn't break easily. The Spider King spat web after web, and within moments, more than a dozen skeleton warriors were trapped. Others scrambled to their feet and charged, knives swinging. A few launched themselves 10 meters into the air and dove toward the Spider King. It backed away quickly, retreating to avoid the plunging attackers. Then, without warning, a flash of red fire appeared above the Spider King and plunged into its body. The creature let out a sudden, agonized scream. A red light flared above Lin Moyu's head and a shackle-shaped sigil appeared. His action speed doubled in an instant. "Soul Flame," he snarled. "Slow curse!" Lin Moyu leapt into the fray, his soul flame lashing out to interrupt the Spider King's motion as the slow curse took hold, sapping the monster's reflexes. At the same time, the skeleton warrior swung up onto the Spider King's back with eerie fluidity and unleashed its own ability. Frenzied Strike! The Spider King's defenses, already far weaker than the mutated turtle's, couldn't withstand the onslaught. The skeleton's blows tore through flesh and exoskeleton. The creature reeled, bleeding and badly wounded. It thrashed wildly, its 8 legs whipping like enormous clubs, and from its mandibles came a fetid sour spray of green liquid. Ability, Acid. The corrosive bile sizzled against bone and rusted armor. Where it struck the skeleton warrior, there was a sharp hissing sound and a plume of acrid smoke. Lin Moyu felt the impact through the link. His ally was injured. "We have to decide quickly," he thought, urgency prickling at his spine. The skeleton's assault intensified as it fought through the pain, and Lin Moyu redoubled his efforts, pouring more soul flame into the attack to try to finish the Spider King before the acid could undo them. The Spider King's injuries worsened, and it let out a howl. Its whole body contracted, the 8 massive legs folding in on themselves like a coiled python. The blade-sharp barbs along those legs pointed outward as the monster began to spin violently, a whirling top sweeping through the cavern. Skill, Wind Scroll. A sudden gale tore through the cave, and the skeleton warriors were sent flying, one after another. Hairline cracks spidered across their bones. This was no light attack. After scattering the skeletons, the Spider King surged toward Lin Moyu. One skeleton warrior darted to Lin Moyu's side, grabbed him, and leapt high to lift him clear of the sweeping onslaught. The Spider King completed 3 furious rotations before finally slowing to a stop. The skeletons closed in again. Although their bones were chipped and cracked, their offensive force was unchanged. Lin Moyu wasn't worried. He'd seen level 1 skeletons before. Pitiful things, like refuse pulled from a midden. Compared to that, these were a marked improvement. The clanging of metal echoed again through the cavern, cut through by the Spider King's agonized scream. It leapt up and clung to the ceiling, hanging upside down and shrieking. The cave trembled, holes opened all around, and swarms of small spiders spilled out, their numbers overwhelming. The Spider King crashed back to the ground and tried to rally its brood, bellowing like a despot. Lin Moyu, however, didn't flinch. She smiled. "Come then, throw yourselves away." A flash of soul flame streaked through the air and consumed a spider instantly. Boom, boom, boom. The cavern erupted into a series of explosions like fireworks, aftershocks ringing off the walls. The blasts kept coming in rapid succession, hundreds of detonations, until Lin Moyu's mental strength was nearly exhausted and the barrage finally slowed. When the detonation stopped, the Spider King was teetering on the brink of collapse. Its massive legs were lacerated and gouged, chunks of flesh hanging and oozing. It stared around, bewildered, unable to understand how it had been torn apart so suddenly. At that moment, a skeleton warrior stepped forward to finish the job. Kill the Spider King, experience pained, stained silver-grade weapon, obtained low-level monster crystal core, spider dagger, silver grade, agility plus 40, constitution plus 40. Assassin skills deal plus 8% damage, usable at level 20. When Lin Moyu checked his status, his experience bar jumped. He'd entered the dungeon with under 1% XP. Now he was at 81%. A full dungeon clear grants roughly an 80% experience boost. It was worth it, but painfully slow. It had taken him an hour and 32 minutes to set the record. Still, it was obvious. Once you found a dungeon, you should just run it straight through. Breaking records nets points and contribution. They're too valuable to pass up. Lin Moyu left the instance. 3 hours later, the area around the entrance was quiet. There weren't many other players left. It was a far cry from the chaos when he'd first beaten the Spider King. Back then, the place had been packed. "About time you came out," someone called, relief in their voice. "Did you clear it?" "Don't worry if you can't join every run," another player said. "This dungeon's full of monsters. It's exhausting to do solo. Luckily, a few of us are pretty helpful. We're all students from Xiajing Academy, so we usually team up to farm it. Folks around here are friendly when they meet." Lin Moyu said softly, "Thanks. I cleared it." "Really? You actually cleared it?" Lin Moyu nodded. "Yeah. That's incredible. You soloed a nightmare-level spider lair. Although the dungeon gives a lot of experience, it's actually really hard to clear. There were so many monsters. Only a mage of your caliber could do it alone." Seeing Lin Moyu unharmed, Shuhan let out a relieved sigh. "I'm glad you're okay." Chapter 80, A New Star and a Lone Wolf. Shuhan arrived just in time. Lin Moyu had been meaning to ask her something. "Do you know which dungeons give better experience?" he asked. He'd always assumed experience was basically determined by the dungeon's level. Higher level, more experience. But recent numbers didn't fit that simple rule. The level 17 Mutation Forest and the level 20 Spider Lair were only 3 levels apart, yet the Spider Lair handed out nearly 3 times the experience. And once you became familiar with a dungeon, your efficiency there could improve even more. Shuhan didn't look surprised. "The Spider Lair is famous," she said. "Among dungeons below level 25, it's the real hotspot for experience. People call it the Holy Land of Experience for a reason. There are huge numbers of monsters. Each little spider gives barely any experience on its own, but when you put them all together, it adds up fast." Then she paused and added, "But you can't judge experience gain by level alone. There are other factors: spawn density, how tightly packed the mobs are, whether you can clear them quickly with AoE skills, the monster's respawn rate, and even dungeon layout. Some places are designed so you can chain kills and stay in combat constantly. Proficiency matters too. The more you farm a place, the better your routes and timing become, so your experience per hour goes up. That's why the Spider Lair outpaces the Mutation Forest, despite only being 3 levels higher. If you don't count the point cost, the Spider's Lair actually gives a lot of experience," Shuhan said. Lin Moyu thought it through and finally understood what he meant. The reason the Spider's Lair pays so well is simple. There are a lot of monsters, so the total XP is high, but it takes a long time to clear. It had taken him 1 hour and 32 minutes to finish the run this time, and the rewards looked to be roughly 3 times what a Mutant Forest run would give. By contrast, a Mutant Forest clear only took about 20 minutes. In the time it took to finish the Spider's Lair once, he could have cleared the Mutant Forest 4 times and still come up short on experience. That, Shuhan explained, was why people called the Spider's Lair an experience holy ground. It wasn't just raw XP per run, it was how runs and cooldowns interacted with the point system. A ticket for a basic dungeon is only 10 points, but bypassing the cooldown to run extra times costs 40 points. When you factor in those point resets, the Spider's Lair becomes far more efficient for farming experience than shorter, smaller dungeons. "Thanks," Lin Moyu said, genuinely grateful to Shuhan. Shuhan waved a hand. "Don't mention it. You'll figure it out sooner or later." He could tell Lin Moyu wasn't overly concerned with earning points. She asked, "So is there any dungeon that respawns quickly and doesn't require a high level?" "There's one that's fast for grinding and gives great experience." Shuhan tilted his head and thought for a moment. There aren't many like that, he knew. Then his eyes lit up. You could team up with someone and run the big dungeon in the Tyrant Desert. In the dungeon hall, there were 3 special instances tied to that area, 2 large dungeons and 1 extra-large raid. Normally, a large dungeon needed a team of about 40 players to clear, while the extra-large raid required well over 100. With the right gear and a high enough level, though, the required headcount for the large dungeons could be reduced to 30 or even 25. From that fact, a new business model had emerged: dungeon leaders. Many students organized teams specifically to carry others through the large dungeons for a fee. The person being carried didn't have to do anything, Just pay a certain number of points and reap the experience. Large-scale dungeons had lots of monsters, high experience yields, and let you level up fast, Shu Han explained. The Academy worries we'd be in danger, so they keep dungeon entry requirements strict. Big dungeons are the only exception. She smiled and went on. The Tyrant Desert is a large, level 25 dungeon. You can enter it from level 20 up to level 30. It covers a 10-level range. Once you hit level 20, you can find a team on the team formation board. If you spend points, someone will take you in and guide you so you can level up. After all, the higher the dungeon level, the harder it is to grind solo and the more dangerous it becomes. Lin Moyu appreciated her thoughtfulness and thanked her quietly. Shu Han chuckled. Don't worry about it, I already have the points. It's getting late, I'm going to rest, she said. If you ever have questions, just ask me. She used a teleportation stone and left the dungeon hall. Lin Moyu glanced at the clock. It was already 9 in the evening. After a full day of fighting, he was understandably worn out. Although he'd just gained a level and his attributes had been fully restored, he still felt the fatigue of a long, hard day. Physical wounds could be healed when he upgraded, but prolonged fighting left a fatigue of the mind that no level up could erase. His skeleton warriors, too, had taken damage in the fight. The injuries weren't severe, but they would still need time to recover. Lin Moyu glanced at the dungeon instance and decided to come back the next day. He activated his teleportation stone and left the dungeon hall. The academy was quiet at night as he walked back to the dormitory. He still couldn't believe how much had happened in just 2 days since he arrived. This life was infinitely more exciting than his high school days. Back then, he'd only learned the basics about the world. After a job change, the school didn't teach most of the new, specialized knowledge, and there wasn't much he could find on his own. The academy couldn't know in advance which path a student would take, whether they'd be a frontline fighter, a support specialist, or pursue a life-oriented profession, so its curriculum stuck to general fundamentals. Only after you selected and settled into a main combat class did the deeper, combat-specific training and information become available. Auxiliary classes were handled the same way. Roles like Prophet and Elf Elder still had to be considered when preparing battle materials, but many support professions, alchemists and pharmacists in particular, would likely never be sent into the instance at all. Knowledge in the academy was strictly stratified, different tiers of information for different specializations. In a few days, specialists recruited by Xiajing Academy from across the country would arrive. The school would schedule unified lectures then, and everyone would be taught the knowledge they needed. Lin Moyu wasn't in a hurry. He went back to the dorm and grabbed a quick bite to line his stomach. Before the trials began, Ningyi had stocked up on food and left some at his place. After that, Lin Moyu returned to his private preparation. A system prompt blinked up in his mind. System: ask for flowers, summon 4 skeletons. They have been placed in the summoning space. The new summons brought his skeleton warriors to a total of 116. Satisfied, Lin Moyu sank into a meditative stance as the faint rhythm of his breathing steadied. Somewhere else, in a secluded chamber of Xiajing Academy, 3 figures sat opposite one another with teacups in hand. The room was quiet, except for the soft clink of porcelain and the low murmur of conversation, each of them watching the other as the Academy's plans for the coming days took shape. Bai Yuan smiled. Well, I'll say this, the kid's pretty impressive. Across from him, Meng Anwen grinned. He cleared the mermaid dungeon solo 3 times and walked away with all 3 mermaid tiers this year. He handed the people of Sakura country a humiliating defeat, put the Onmyoji to shame, and even made the Qianlong Academy representative look completely outclassed. Who do you think you're dealing with? Don't think that being trained at a prestigious academy makes you untouchable, Meng Anwen added. If you underestimate the nation's top scholar, you'll end up eating your words. Meng Anwen smirked and glanced at Hongshan beside him. Hongshan, the dean of Qianlong Academy, had seen his students humiliated, and as their head he was naturally furious. He couldn't help a snort, but otherwise ignored Meng Anwen's taunt. Bai Yuan chuckled. Honestly, I put him in that trial just to see what he could do. He doesn't say much, but he can't keep himself from unleashing a big move for long. Meng Anwen took a sip of tea. Did you find out what talent she has? Did you ask clearly? Bai Yuan set his cup down. I asked. It's an increased talent. I couldn't get the exact measure of it, but it's not weak. Meng Anwen eyed him curiously. Bai Yuan smiled and lifted his cup again. That's a secret. It's not polite to pry. Would you like it if someone dug into the depths of your own talent? Meng Anwen bristled at the idea of his ability being questioned. Fine, don't ask then. An increased talent is really impressive. It's come up before. If her skill level develops properly and she trains hard, combined with that talent, her prospects are very bright, Bai Yuan added. I agree, Bai Yuan said. This girl has a lot of potential. Her sister is already at the Creation Theological Academy and has earned the favor of one of the elders. She's taking a lot of trouble to train her. Even normally composed Meng Anwen drew in a sharp breath. He hadn't thought it strange that she could enroll at the Creation Seminary. After all, it's full of geniuses, and not everyone there becomes a major figure. But being personally favored by an elder? That changed everything. Bai Yuan slapped his thigh and laughed. I was stunned. Honestly, I was completely stunned then. Meng Anwen raised an eyebrow. Do you know why? Bai shook his head. If the old man favors you, it must mean something. You know how picky he is. He doesn't hand out that kind of attention to just anyone. It looks like our side is about to get 2 new stars, Bai added. Meng Anwen took a slow sip of tea and said nothing more. Hong Shan, who almost never spoke, suddenly chimed in. 2 new stars and a lone wolf. Lin Moyu spoke so little and kept to himself so much that the description fit perfectly. He really did have the air of a lone wolf.